Okay, welcome everyone to another Sunday of When Black Women Gather. Today is the third Sunday of the month and Easter. I'm so sorry. If I had done my homework, I probably would have rescheduled this, but it's just in my mind that it's the third Sunday that we meet to do our international call. And for the international calls, it's an opportunity for us to talk to Black folks who are living in other parts of the world, to introduce those of us who are not living in other parts of the world to the possibility of it. So we'll be talking to Black folks who are indigenous Brazilians, which I'm really excited about. And I want them to talk about their experience, not only living as an Afro person in Brazil, but also their experience of Black foreigners when we come to Brazil. And we'll be talking to, I'm calling them transplants, but Black folks who have migrated to Brazil. And then we have people on the call who are just interested in, this is your time to ask questions. Brazil is in a really exciting place. I've been there several times. I still say you haven't been to Brazil unless you go to Salvador. I love Bahia, which is my very favorite place. And I've been to Sao Paulo, I've been to Rio. And like I said, I had not been to Brazil until I went to Bahia. So we have somebody from each of those areas, and I'm sure that somebody will disagree with me, but we can all talk about it. So we have 5 guests with us today, and I'm sure other folks too who are going to hop in, who I may not have spoken with, but this is an open conversation. We'll start out with first just listening to our guests, who each of them I'll bring them on screen and they'll tell us who they are and what they do, and what their affiliation is to the country. And then we'll just have a conversation and we'll open it up to questions as we go along. So is that good for everybody? Okay. So welcome again to another Sunday of When Black Women Gather. So I'm just gonna I'm gonna bring everybody on screen, spotlight, myself. And I swear I have such a sun glare today. I don't know what's going on. All right. You guys are co-hosts, so if you know how to do this, you can help me do it. No, everybody's shaking their head no. Okay. So, let's see, who am I missing? Phil, where are you, Phil? Phil. Let's see. I'll bring him
I'm here.
I know. I'm just trying to find out where you are on my screen here so I can bring you on.
You know what helps? I put it on speaker view, so whoever's talking shows up like in the middle of the screen. Like if you go up to the right side, there's a thing called view, and you have gallery view and speaker view, and then you'll get whoever's talking is going to be center screen. Because yes, a lot of people get lost.
Everybody right now. Here we go. So thank you all for agreeing to do this. The only person on this screen that I know is Reginaldo. I stayed at his hotel when I was in in Bahia. And so thank you so much for agreeing to do this. So I'm just going to introduce everybody and then you all can tell us who you are. And you can tell us about yourself. So like I said, Reginaldo, I stayed at your hotel. How are you, Reginaldo? Thank you so much for coming.
You got No, I'm okay. As I told you, it's a great pleasure to talk with you and talk with everybody here in this moment. Okay, well, I'm working out there for something like 31 years or so. And since then, I have been meeting a lot of interesting people like Helen. Okay, Helen. And once in a while, you used to talk, and it's always a great pleasure to talk with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. And he will tell us about Bahia and what he's doing now. And of course, invite us all to come to visit Bahia. Next on my screen, okay, Marcos, you ready? I see he was, he was drinking. Sorry.
I'm having some tea.
So we have Marcos Valois. I'm sorry saying that not properly because it's French. Can everybody mute, please? Everybody should mute themselves. Thank you. If you're not speaking. Thank you. Go ahead, Marcos. So tell us who you are, where you're from, and what brings you here today, and what are you going to share with us?
I'm Marcos. I'm from Rio. Yeah, I'm a Portuguese teacher for foreigners. Yeah, that's my job here in Rio, in Brazil. Yeah, and I teach Portuguese through a Black perspective. It's just not only looking the perspective of teaching, even like books and everything. Yeah, everything that we see in the market is like so white. Yeah, and the idea that I have this school is to teach Portuguese, and not only Portuguese, but the culture, the Black culture in Brazil through Portuguese, through the language. Yeah, so basically it's a huge job. It's a lot of things to do. Yeah, but basically I think that's it as an introduction.
So that'll be interesting when you talk to us, because it brings me to mind here, because I'm sure that the push is to not teach the Afrocentric part of Brazilian history. Is that right?
Of course.
Yeah.
So that's what we do here.
The same thing we're having here. So that'll be interesting. So thank you and welcome. Andre, you're next. Andre Corrigan is from the States, guys. He's from Chicago, but he's like a world traveler. This is, he just landed in Brazil from Colombia. But so talk to us, Andre. Welcome. And tell us about your podcast.
Okay, so yeah, first of all, Andre, hello everyone. I'm from Chicago, and I've been traveling for about 3 years. Did a little traveling before that, but basically sold my house and my car and everything. And when you say world travel, it's mostly been Latin America, because that's like I really want to focus on the southern hemisphere of the globe first. And yeah, I was in Colombia, Ecuador, many places, traveled around. I do a little bit of teaching, and now I'm mostly doing like business consulting and job interview preparation for international business people. And I want to visit Reginaldo's hotel, and I definitely want to visit Marcos, because I'm here in Niterói, which is very close to Rio de Janeiro.
Great. So Andre will talk to us some more in a minute. I'm just doing introductions at this point. I was going to do Rebecca, but she went off screen. So Phil is a Jersey guy, a Brazilian. Well, go ahead, Phil. How are you, Phil? Welcome. Kind of bringing you back. I'm in South Jersey. I'm in Camden, so you can just pretend that you're here through me for this next hour. How about that?
That'll be great. And it's funny how we separate North from South Jersey.
Yes, we do.
Yes. So guys, I was born here in Brazil. My family moved to the US when I was about 6 or so. So I'm coming from a kind of a unique perspective where culturally I feel very American, but I'm also Brazilian. So I think I'll try to give you some perspective of feeling like an expat in my own country. Down here, I teach English. Well, I started teaching English, but then I'm actually working at a high school now. And I do music. I play a lot of music. So that's what my life is composed of, teaching and music.
And your podcast, what's the name of
it? And my podcast, yes, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, yes. And everybody on here, make sure you drop your stuff in the chat so people will know how to get in touch with you after this call. Welcome for sure. So much. And last but not least, we have the lovely Rebecca. Hi, Miss Rebecca. Welcome.
Hey, hello, everyone. Thanks so much to be here with you. Thanks for the invitation. I'm so happy to stay here with Phil, my friend, for the invitation to stay here. I'll talk a little bit about me. I'm a traveler. I'm a Black woman. I have a group of Black travelers from Brazil and from Caribbean and the African girls who speak Portuguese for to show and to represent this woman who are travel also. Yeah, we cannot see the presentation, and that's the reason we created an organization, a group of Black travelers from South America, Caribbean, and African speakers. I'm a podcaster from Bitonga Travel. We have a podcaster website, Instagram to incentivize Black travelers women. And I have now I wrote my first book talking about who is be a Black traveler around the world. My focus when I'm traveling is in focusing Afrotourism. I visited 24 states in Brazil and talk about Afroturismo and show how the Black people are in this country. And I go around, I move around so much. And that's the reason every time, everywhere. And now I'm doing here, I am doing like the presentation of my book in Rio. In few days, I am in Salvador. And is that now I'm working. Thank you so much.
I love what you do because it seems so much like what I do with When Black Women Gather. It's about women, and everything we do is from a Black perspective. And there will be people on this call from all over. So thank you. So let's just dig right into the conversation. I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions. So I don't know if people recognize that Brazil has the highest concentration of people of African descent outside of the US. So I am always impressed at the strong Afro influence that is there in Brazil. So as we're talking, if we can just talk from that perspective, that would be really great. And I think everybody on here knows that that's the perspective. Not the only perspective, right? Now, you all who are the speakers, you guys can unmute because we're just going to have a free-flowing conversation. I just wanted everybody else to be muted. But you all please unmute so that we can all talk. Marcos, I know that you wanted to share a short video, so that might be a good way for us to start. If you show the video and it gives everybody just a quick synopsis of what Brazil is about from an Afro perspective. Is that okay?
Yeah. So yeah, I did a small presentation, kind of video. I'm learning computer. Yeah, so sometimes it's not as good as I wanted it to be, but let's see here. I can get, okay, so share. You can all see?
Yes.
Okay, nice. So first I want to bring, yeah,
Yes.
the size of Brazil, yeah. I wanted to bring this for you, the size of Brazil. Look at this, it's huge, yeah. So this is the idea of Brazil, how big it is from comparing to the US, yeah. So you have the US here and Brazil here. So it's bigger, Brazil is bigger than the US, but you have Alaska, then it makes like US bigger than Brazil. But that's the idea, and how huge is the country. And it's terrible, yeah. But this is Europe. All the countries in Europe, they fit inside Brazil. So Brazil is bigger than Europe. So we see that the idea of the maps, how all the maps, how they are distorted, yeah, to make Africa and Brazil, like South America, way smaller than they really are. Yeah, this is like so important to say every time. So this is something about the population, Brazilian population. We are around 216 million, yeah, and we have 46.3% of brown people. We're going to talk about this, yeah. So let me start with the white people, yeah. We have 42.2% of white people, yeah, and the rest are non-white, yeah, of course. And we have 46.3% of brown people, 9.3% of black people, 1.1% of indigenous people, and the other one that's not showing, it's Asian. Okay, so it's this idea of brown and black, yeah. So in the next one, I have all these denominations, yeah. It's moreno, morena, mulato, pardo, caboclo, cafuso, mameluco. So this is like mixed race people, and for the kind of influence of the races in Brazil, yeah, and we know that it's in every society, especially here in the Americas, yeah, how it's easier, yeah, to be white or not to be black. So the idea of having other names, yeah, for not being black, but morenos, like light color, mulatto, pardo, yeah. So when I get back here, again, there's a lot of people that back in time, they were saying they were like, oh, I'm mulatto, I'm moreno, and now they're more recognizing themselves as black. Yeah, so this is like something amazing. And this year we have a census again, and I believe this number will raise a lot, yeah, of black people. Let's see what will happen. So this is all the other names. So I want to show something here also, yeah. So as we saw Brazil, so I'm showing Brazil, I'm showing Rio, the state. So this right here is the state of Rio, yeah. And from the state of Rio, we have the city of Rio de Janeiro, yeah. And in the city of Rio de Janeiro that you may know or you may not know, yeah, we have 4 big zones, yeah. Zona Sul is this yellow one. Centro, yeah, the center, downtown, is the red one. Zona Norte, the blue one, yeah, and Zona Oeste, the green one. And this is the map of the prefeitura, yeah, the city hall, yeah. So they have a map. So this map, this is Zona Sul, yeah. This everything here from Flamengo, Glória, São Conrado until Equador. This is all Zona Sul. And I'm going back and forth of this map and the other map, okay? So Zona Sul, we're talking about this yellow, yeah, part, and all this yellow part is here. Yeah. And you see how big is like the blue part, the majority of black people are, and the green part also, and they are not even represented here. Just Maracanã, yeah, because of the stadium, and then you see like São Paulo, another city, you know, another state is like 400 kilometers away. So we have all this area that is like huge. That's not shown, yeah. So Niterói, I'm crossing there to meet you, my friend. The airport, yeah, the airport is here. Is here, the airport, okay, and it's being shown here, so far away, and it looks like so close there. This is downtown, yeah, downtown, this part, and that's it, yeah. So we go to the city hall, the website, and that invisibility, yeah, of poor black neighborhoods, yeah. This is what happens a lot. So it's very important to show and to acknowledge that Rio, the city, is not only this, yeah. There's a huge part that they will never show, and where the black culture is, yeah, where our friends, yeah, our people are, yeah. That's very important to know. And last, I just put, this is like the thing that I'm doing, yeah, the Instituto Cultural Americano, Araquara is my school that I'm opening. It's already open, but we're still like in the beginning, yeah. So we use this word Am-African, yeah, Am-Africana, that was coined by Lélia Gonzalez. That she's an amazing writer and thinker and philosopher of our time in Brazil. And we take this name from her. So every time I speak Am-African, I have to think about her and I have to mention her, because without her, this wouldn't be possible, yeah. And I always say this, something that I say that education is, no, it's not education, Jesus, it's communication. How did I make it wrong, Marcos? But you know, communication is healing. And for me, communication is healing. Yeah. So when we are talking about this here, yeah, this is a healing, our communication in English. I hope that one day you can do it in Portuguese. All of you can do it in Portuguese, just to meet all these people that are here, not only this tourist area here, okay? So this is like my intro, what I would like to tell you all, okay?
Good information. Thank you so much for sharing. That was great.
Starting from there.
That was great, yeah. So somebody was saying, and yes, Jocelyn, Brazil has the highest concentration of people of African descent outside of Africa. Yes. So yeah, so you know, as we talk, I would love to hear more about like who are. So I know like in South Africa, there's the coloreds and the blacks. So would that be the same for the brown people and the black people in Brazil? Who are the brown people in Brazil? Are they the mixed people?
This is very hard. Yeah, it's a very hard to say, because I know that in the US you have this drop of blood and these people is black. Yeah, this is like something that I understand, but this is not the same here. I feel, it's just the way I feel. Yeah. And I think we're still understanding what is like being black and being brown. And for me, it's like it's very complicated for me. Yeah.
You know what? Maybe
black faces and understand. Oh, you're black. Go ahead.
Maybe Phil. I'm thinking because Phil has the U.S. perspective. Maybe Phil can answer that. Can you, Phil?
Well, I'm gonna piggyback off of what Marcos said. It's a bit complex. It's a bit different. One, because there was a whole lot more mixing here. It was forced. It wasn't everybody happily getting together. So, and there were laws put into place. There were actually an attempt to just white the culture, make the culture white, which was much stronger than I think in the US. I think their segregation, as horrible as it was, helped kind of keep black a little bit more black than it is in Brazil. And it's just a different, you can't just say because they're black people, they had the same experience as black folks in the US. It's a whole completely different line to go from where they were in slavery to where we are now. So when it comes to race stuff, it's a touchy topic, and I understand the Brazilian perspective, and I understand the US perspective, and we see where we can meet in the middle. But there are people here, even Marcos was talking about how many people are identifying as black in every census. And I look at some people, and Marcos maybe has this experience, that say they're black, and you say, really? There's some folks, but there's a different view of what is black here versus what is white. And it's complex and it's different, and you just accept it. I just accept it for what it is.
Yeah, I know when I was there in 2016, there was definitely a movement, and maybe Rebecca, you can speak to that. There was definitely a movement amongst Black women. Reginaldo, I don't know if you remember when I stayed in your hotel, at the same time, there was a Black women's convention going on there, which was really like, okay, this is not by accident that I'm here at this time. It was powerful. And when I was there was a situation where a young girl had been raped by like 30 guys because she broke up with her boyfriend. And there was this huge protest of women. Do you remember that, Reginaldo? On the beach. The first night we got there, all this was happening. It was, and it was drums and it was music. But the thing with the women was that there was definitely an awareness of being Black. Natural hair there was a real fascination, a growth in people wearing their own hair. And yes, people were in all shades. So anybody who wants to speak to that, you can.
I felt it since I've been here since 2009, 2010, and the Brazil of that time and the Brazil of now, when it comes to Afro-Black issues, is completely different. And it's great to see because I always like to say, maybe a lot of foreigners here say that it seems like culturally, as far as these movements are concerned, Brazil is just like maybe 30, 40 years behind where the US was. Even something as silly as when I first got here, I saw a bunch of emos, and I was like, wait, this was when I was a teenager, all the kids in black, the fingernail polish. So it seems like stuff sometimes takes a little bit longer to get going here. And the Black movement was one of them. Like when I got here, there was nothing. Like I would play a little game where I would go sit in an office in the waiting room and flip through a magazine and try to see if I can find one Black person. That was my little game. It's still not perfect now. It's still not great, the representation, but I see it more. You see people with their natural hair. You see people with, like, look at Marco's beautiful hair. You see this now, maybe 10 years ago, you would see it, but they wouldn't be working in a bank. They wouldn't be going into a store. It'd be something for the outskirts. So it's grown up and look like Rebecca. Look at this beautiful woman, you know, like the whole style, like that's something that 10 years ago, it wasn't as visible. And the Black movements have really, really, really picked up steam down here. And it's awesome. It's great to see.
Reginaldo, were you going to say something?
Well, the Black movement here in Salvador is getting better and stronger and stronger. When Marcos talking about something that happened with him, and I could compare with things that used to happen here as well. And now I think the Black people here in Salvador is trying to stay together and try to fight against the racism and a lot of people that have been happening around the world. And people here from some years ago now is try to convince people that the Black people are important, so important, and try to face up the inconvenience that used to happen here.
Yeah. So you do remember that there was that women's conference when I was there? Do you remember?
Oh, unfortunately, you told me, but I don't remember. In that time, I used to stay. Try to solve a lot of kind of situation involving with a lot of things. Unfortunately, I don't remember. So many things happen when you are working in a hotel. That's why I'm really sorry. I used to apologize because I don't remember.
You're such a great host. I'm sure that I'll get the name of it and share it with you. Rebecca, can you add something to that?
Yeah, I totally agree. But I would like you to add, a little bit more when you are talking about Brazil. When you say, I'm a Black people, I'm Caboclo, how Marcos told to us, like it's very different when we stay in the north of Brazil, like how they consider themselves when they are mix of the indigenous and Black people. Like that is very difficult for us to say, hey, Black, brown people, but this with the time it will be more easy for your consideration. But for us is what you will say you are. Like I'm a Black, I'm not Black, and it's very important. And our moment is show for the white people because they don't have they are racist and they like it to say, hey, don't worry, I'm a Black also, but we need you to show them they are not Black. And it's more easy, we recognize you who are not Black. I think this is more easy for us. You are not Black and you fight with them.
Rebecca, here in I'm really sorry to interrupt you, but here in Salvador, things is getting better and better. People used to accept their condition, their race. And I would like that you are coming to Salvador in 2 days or so, and I would like to invite you to meet you in Baja, and you can talk about so many things that been happening here in Salvador. And probably I can convince you that here is a kind of bit different.
No, I'm not talking about the Salvador. I have been there. My family is from there. I'm talking about Acre, about Amazonas.
I see.
And it's completely different, and we segregate this part from Brazil. We segregate the central zone of Brazil, and when you say about Brazil, we say about the coast. Atlantic coast is more easy to say, but it's not. Brazil is big, and they have a different concept of what they are.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And you know, so I'm so glad Marcos showed how big the country is. It's huge. You literally fly between cities. Can you even drive from Bahia to Rio? Is it possible to drive, or do you have to fly?
It's, more than 24 hours drive.
Huge. Okay, all right. So let's hear from our American in the crew, Andre.
By the way, Helen,
yes?
If you don't mind, can I send you WhatsApp phone number? When people being interested in come to Salvador, they can contact me. Can I?
Absolutely.
Can I put in the chat?
Yes, please do. And I strongly doubt he will give you a wonderful visit when you're there. Andre,
Excuse me?
Yes?
Rebecca, what's the name of her book again?
Can you drop it in the chat? Her book is only in Portuguese. It's coming out in English soon, right, Rebecca?
Yes, exactly. In
From Ipanema.
few days will be English version. I just for now is on Portuguese, and in 2 days in English and Spanish. The name is Writer, Letter of Travelers Around the World, Black Girls Around the World.
Say it again.
Letters from a traveler girl, Black girls around the world.
Letters from traveling Black girls from around the world. Okay, I'm putting that in the chat. Yeah. Okay. So, Andre, tell us, what took you to Brazil and how are you making out since you've been there?
Well, so as I said earlier, I left the United States in 2019 for various reasons. Oh, and also I do have a YouTube channel and I kind of talk about that, my experiences, but left the United States and I went to Colombia and I really like Colombia. Colombia is great, but it's kind of a funny thing. The reason I left Colombia, one of the reasons is because they were doing like a lot of protests and the government actually responded a little bit more aggressive than they should have. They were, killing some of the protesters. So it was getting a little hot in Colombia, and I really wasn't like gelling with the culture in Colombia, basically because I don't really like salsa, and so like salsa is everything. It's like when I was in Chicago, I managed a hip hop club for 21 years. So I worked at a hip hop club, and so I'm just used to hip hop and R&B wherever I go. And so I go out in Colombia, and I'm just hearing like salsa music, and I'm just like looking at people dancing. I'm just like, I just didn't really feel it. So I traveled to Ecuador, went to some other places, but I've always wanted to go to Brazil. And when I went to Brazil, it was just dope. It was just, I just felt like I was at home. I went to Rio, and Rio really reminded me a lot of Chicago, the good and the bad of it. And I just really, it's like the samba music. I really like the music. I like the people. There's a lot to do because it's just such a huge country. And I feel like I'm really, still really learning a lot about Brazil. I've only been in the state of Rio de Janeiro, so I haven't really traveled that much. So, but I'm going to be here for a year at least, and possibly longer after that. So I'm working on getting my student visa right now.
That's what I was going to ask you. So what are the different types of visas and how difficult was it to get a visa to come?
So pretty much for American travelers and a lot of travelers, you get 3 months when you come, 90 days, and then you can extend that for another 90 days. You're supposed to leave the country, but I believe you can extend it without leaving the country. And you just have to show, proof that you're going to fly out of the country, have a return ticket to your home country or something, or just a ticket to another place. But there's the student visa, which traditionally is kind of the easier one to get. You just have to show that you're enrolled in a school. And as long as you're in school, you can stay in Brazil for, I believe, and maybe Marcos might be able to speak to this, for I believe up to 2 years. And then there's like investor's visa where you have to invest a certain amount of money. There's a retirement visa. And then there's also the new digital nomad visa, which I don't know too much about because it just came out this year. And I haven't actually met anyone who's gotten it yet. But it is a little difficult because you need to get like your FBI background check, and you have to send your fingerprints in. You have to get financial statements from your bank. You have to get all these like your birth certificate. And you have to get them apostillized, which is a little bit different than getting them notarized. So it can get a little pricey. It's much easier to get your visa in Colombia, I felt, because you don't need to get any documents like apostolized by the government. So
are you saying for all visas you have to do that? Or I thought you were speaking just for the digital nomad visa. You're saying for all visas you have to do all of that.
I only know what I've been doing for the student visa. You have to get those documents apostolized, but I'm pretty sure if you have to get them apostolized for the student visa, you probably have to do it for the other visas as well.
Yeah. So I guess mine was just a tourism visa. And I do remember that you couldn't, I forget how long it was good for, but you couldn't get it until you had paid for a ticket to come. So it was kind of a catch-22 because if you pay for your ticket and then they deny your visa, of course, the airline's going to say that's not my problem. So it was a gamble. But I don't remember how long it was for.
I think it's different now. So now if you're just coming, they give you a stamp for it's like a tourist stamp for 90 days. So you can just come to Brazil for 90 days. You don't need to apply for a special visa or anything. Same thing for Colombia. You can just go to Colombia, go to Ecuador. Many countries in Latin America you can just go to for 90 days.
Oh, wow, that's so cool. Yeah, there was something special happening when we went, and it was around the Olympics being there. So the president, I think it was still the female president at that time, and she had relaxed the requirements to get a visa. So tell people now that you're there, Andre, how do you sustain yourself?
How do I make money? So it's funny. I was just talking to Phil about this. And in Colombia and Ecuador is a little bit more expensive than Colombia because they use the dollar. Panama is more expensive as well. But I was, it's very easy to not spend money. It's hard to spend a lot of money in Colombia. You have to really try to like ball out. But I started making money by teaching kids online, and I quickly transitioned into working with adults. So basically what I do is I work with like CEOs and executives and help them with speech preparation and just improve their English for talking in professional environments. And the other thing I do is I prepare people for job interviews for FAANG companies like Microsoft, Google. So basically, especially because of the conflict in Russia and Ukraine, there's a lot of people looking for jobs online. And because, there's a lot of people in Brazil who want to work for companies in America, China, the United States, and they need English for that.
So how do you do that? Because you don't speak Portuguese, right?
No, but my clients are from China, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, Dominican Republic, from all over the world. So that's the beauty of being online, is I can tap into the business clients that I would never get to talk to if I was just, doing a local thing.
Okay, cool. Sounds great. Sounds great. Phil, talk to us. What's it like being over there? I guess you feel like a Jersey guy, but you're in Brazil.
Yes.
Do they receive you as a Jersey guy, or they receive you as a Brazilian? Do you feel like expat in your homeland?
That's complex. That's a complex question. I was answering some of the questions in the chat, guys. Well, I'm gonna do a little bit like Marcos did. I liked what he did there with the sharing of the screen here. So very quickly, okay, guys, I'm in a different part of Brazil. I'm in São Paulo. Okay, it's not a place that a lot of people think about when they think Brazil. They usually think Rio or Bahia, especially when it comes to Afro-tourism, because if you walk down the street, you think, oh, this is just a white city, very European. And just so you know, geographically, the further south you go, the more European it gets. So if you get to cities like Curitiba, Blumenau, then it has a lot of German influence. Some areas down there even speak still a dialect of German. You have Dutch influence, you have Swiss influence. That's like everybody's been saying, Brazil is huge, and people from all over have come here. So São Paulo is kind of like the dividing line of this, So actually, São Paulo is the city that has the most Blacks in Brazil, as far as, living in the city itself. So it's huge, as you can see. It's a sea of buildings. Okay, it's a sea of buildings. Okay. It's inland, so there's no beach. Okay, so there's not an actual skyline. But what I like about São Paulo is that São Paulo is many São Paulos. Okay, it's such a big city. Actually, let me go back here. As you can see, I'm stealing your homework, Marcos. I like what you did. While he was talking, I was making this little slideshow real quick. But it's nice what he did. So I'm gonna steal his homework.
To do it. And he did like it.
But anyway, guys, as you can see, São Paulo is the biggest city in South America. It's got 20 million people if you count the metropolitan region. Inside the city, it's about 9 or 10 million. And yes, you got the center right there. You got the west side, which is where I live. The south is huge. Okay, it extends really far down. And then you have the east side and the north side of the city. This is closer to downtown, which is all buildings. You got some parks here. I think this is Ibirapuera. Somebody had asked in the chat if there's a historic Afro institutions. There's an Afro Brazilian museum in Ibirapuera Park, which is very famous. But as you can see, kind of very modern looking city. What I like about it is that I live here. I live in the green, okay? And you can see the buildings in the back. I live in a neighborhood called Butantã. And just to have an idea, just this neighborhood of Butantã has over 300,000 people. That's bigger than a lot of US cities. So when you think São Paulo, you have to think neighborhoods, because some folks that were born and raised here, they don't leave their side of the city because it's such a big city. You know, maybe once in a while they'll go to a party or to work or something, but it's very much, if you're from the West Side, you're in the West Side, and you got everything there, from culture to food to recreation. So there's no real reason, if you're from the West Side, to travel 2 hours across the city to go hang out on the East Side. So you got to understand that about São Paulo. It's not a city where folks are very bairristas. Is that how you say it in Portuguese? They're really into their neighborhoods. As a teacher, because I teach English down here, I used to, now I just do regular classes. I'm everywhere, you know, so I it's funny because I think I know São Paulo better than some people that live in São Paulo, because I had to go to the east, to the west, to the south. And São Paulo's got green. You know, a lot of people don't know this about São Paulo. They think it's just that sea of gray buildings, which I don't like very much. I love being in there to party and to work, but I prefer going back home to the green, which is kind of where you're seeing here. This is Vila Lobos Park, which is close to my house that I love. You got some parks in Cotia, which is a city next door to me. But as I was speaking here, I think, can you see this here? It says, Roteiro por São Paulo, a cidade com mais negros do Brasil. So the city with the most blacks in Brazil. And basically it's going to say something similar to what I just said, is that at first look, you're not going to connect. If you're Afro, you know, if you're going for Afro tourism, things like that, you're probably not going to connect to São Paulo. You're going to be like, oh, this is like New York or Philadelphia, or it's a white city. You know, that's what you're going to feel at first glance. And it took me about a year to really fall in love with the city. Now I'm unabashedly in love with São Paulo, but it took me about a year to get it, you know. And Andre said, you know, we were talking last week, and I think I told him this, is that the difference between maybe Rio and Salvador, it's in your face. You land there and it's like, boom, cidade maravilhosa. It's beautiful. I've been to Rio. I'm not a big fan of the city itself, but the nature part, I'm like, wow, this city is gorgeous. Whereas São Paulo, you got to work for it. Like when you land here, you know, you're like in this ugly airport. There's vultures hanging out in the tarmac. You know, you drive into the city, it's just highway, industrial, highway, industrial, highway. And you're like, where am I? This place is horrible. And then you got to really, really work to find the cool places, find where the Black folks are. And there's a lot of Black history here. I just took a tour with Rebecca about 3 weeks ago, which was beautiful. And it's stuff that I didn't know about how Blacks were the first here in Sao Paulo, and they were moved out by the Europeans, and how there were quilombos in the middle of the city, how some neighborhoods that today are considered Portuguese and Italian neighborhoods were originally African neighborhoods. So that's all there. And you can still find these folks. They've been spread out to the margins, which is another reason why I like to live where I live in Butantã. It's in the suburbs. I couldn't deal with the center because the center is more white. And I was like the only white guy in my building. Like I got tired of that. I got tired of getting followed around every time I went into a store. So I found Butantã and I'm like, okay, I can live here because there's a mix of everybody. There's white, there's Black, there's brown, there's Asian, there's, you know, it's a nice mix of folks. So here they're giving you just places in the city where you can find the Afro culture. You can go downtown. There's a lot of immigrants from Africa, actually, from Senegal, Nigeria. I had a really great Nigerian friends here. Ghana, they all come down and they stay in downtown São Paulo. That's where you get the reggae, the sambas. You get, of course, you can go to these Escola Sambas. Last night, there was the parade in IMB, okay? And São Paulo is probably second to Rio as far as the size when it comes to those parades in IMB. You have just regular sambas, man. You can find samba, pagode down here almost every weekend. And try to find yourself a black samba and a black pagode. This has been a discussion in a lot of the expat groups, how in the last 5 to 6 years, whites have kind of taken over the pagode, man. I get sick and tired of being invited to some pagodes and it's a bunch of white boys up there singing. I don't like it. I prefer the black sambas and pagodes. But you can still find them, okay? They're still out there. But again, that's my thesis, I guess, is in Sao Paulo, you got to look for it. It's not like going to Rio in Salvador and wow, here it is. Okay, you have the Afro Museum. You have a bunch of Black-owned businesses from Rat Burger, Bius, okay, which is an African restaurant, Congolinaria, which I haven't been to yet, restaurant from Congo. You have religious festivals. You have Bachuku, which I believe is a LGBT plus Black dance party. Discopedia, which I've been to. Afro Jam, which is amazing. I've been to Afro Jam a bunch of times. There's a bunch of cultural centers. There's one in Jabaquara here, Quilombaki. There's a whole lot of stuff. There's slams, poetry slams, hip hop slams. Again, more in the periferia. In Portuguese, that word is like the suburbs. It's not going to be down Avenida Paulista, where Andre and I were last week. You start going into the suburbs, you start getting the Black cultures. Aparelho Luzia, which is called an urban quilombo, that actually is downtown. And they have, actually Rebecca, I think she's going to be there to present her book in a couple of weeks, but they have expositions, films, dance parties, and it's a Black space. It's a Black space. So it's there, okay? The Black spaces are there. And here, guys, like I said it in the chat, but I have 2 Instagrams. I have São Paulo Tours and I have Phil Ray Music. And here are just some pictures around São Paulo. This is close, a favela close to my house. I have some family that lives there. This is Avenida Paulista. So you see the contrast.
Tell them what a favela. Tell them what a favela is.
Oh, the favela is, I guess there's no translation for it. It would be like the ghetto, shanty town, whatever, where usually poor folks live. And poor equals Black 99% of the time. You have Avenida Paulista, which is the main business center. This is downtown. So you see how the city has so many landscapes. This is from a couple years ago at the rehearsal of the Samba school that I went to. Also, the street art here is amazing. It's like, I'm from Philadelphia. Well, we say that from South Jersey, right? But you know, that's my backyard. I mean, I've been going to Philly since I was 12, 13, as soon as I was old enough to get on the Patco. And what do I love about Philadelphia? It's the murals. And when I come to Sao Paulo, man, you just have a bunch of them. You get food festivals. This is near where I live, so you can see the contrast in the city. This is downtown. And more street art. There's a bunch of street art down here, some nice bars and restaurants, and a lot of beer. So that's just the quick overview of Sao Paulo. Now, you had asked how I feel down here. Do I feel Brazilian or American? I feel New Jerseyan. I don't think I ever identified as American, even when I lived in the US. I don't think I'm that nationalistic, but I do identify as a New Jerseyan. I see my attitude, the way that I talk, it's New Jersey, it's South Jersey. So I'll tell you something that did happen is when I came to Brazil, I had a police incident and I had to go file a police report. And the lady tried to put me down as pardo. And something just touched me when she said that. I didn't like it. And pardo is like, I don't even know what that means. It's just a weird, like,
translate as brown.
Yeah, but it was a weird name. I didn't like it. So I said Black. I think that was the first time in my life where I felt it very important to put Black. Because before that, in the US, I always felt just like a world citizen. And I think that's because we move so much. I never connected to a place. I'm a citizen of the world. You can see my background. I'm a big Star Trek fan. So I'm into this whole, United Federation of Planets, whatever. But in Brazil, I think that's the first place that I felt very important to put Black. And then when it comes to the whole Brazilian or American part, I have offended some Brazilians that said, oh, mas você é brasileiro, tem que parar com isso, you got to stop this, you got to. And because I was acting a certain way, or I was not sharing my cake, like with Rebecca once, and it's a weird place to be, and I think because of that, I've expanded my friend circle more to expats because we connect a little bit more culturally. And with Brazilians, I respect the Brazilian culture, the ones that respect that, I respect their culture, but know that I'm going to be different in a lot of aspects. We can ride with, we can chill, and it'll be okay. But it can be complicated. It can be complicated because of that, because they look at me, they hear me talk. I don't have that much of an accent when I speak in Portuguese, and they're like, "Você é brasileiro, por que você tá falando isso?" You're Brazilian. Why are you acting like this? Why are you upset because of this and this and this? And it's a weird place to be, but I'm fine with it. It's life.
Yeah, I was shocked if I had to guess because of my experience. I definitely received Sao Paulo like New York City. I'm, jungle, just urban jungle. That wasn't my thing. But I would have never guessed that it had the highest concentration of Black folks. I would have thought, because of my experience, that it would have been Salvador, Bahia. Because there, people, it was just an African flair. The food was African, the dance, the music, it was just more of an African flair. So that surprises me.
The thing is, like, the São Paulo has the highest number of absolute numbers.
Absolute, yeah, per capita.
Concentration, it's in Salvador. It's 80% of Salvador. Reginaldo can tell better. But Bahia has 80% of Black people.
Sure, 80%. So, Phil, well, do not go to Porto Alegre, okay? Do not go to Porto Alegre. Porto Alegre is terrible. I was there twice, and all the time when I went to a restaurant, everybody started to look at me in a different way. I felt like a host there. I didn't like to stay. There is a brotherhood here, and you feel comfort.
You're cutting out a little bit.
Yeah, you're freezing on and off, but we're getting.
I can say something about that, isn't it?
Your connection is bad.
Porto Alegre, for those that don't know, is southern tip of Brazil. Although interesting is actually where I met Rebecca. I met Rebecca in Brasilia in 2012 or something like this. And it was a congress to ask for more healthcare rights for marginalized people. And it was actually cool. I did meet a lot of Black folks from Porto Alegre who lived in the quilombos in Porto Alegre. So Black folks are everywhere. I mean, you just gotta look a little harder sometimes. But he is right. I mean, south of São Paulo, you start to get to Curitiba, Porto Alegre, these cities, it's definitely gonna be more influence from Europe and even Argentina. Some places are very close to the border to Argentina, Paraguay, and stuff like that. But Black folks are everywhere. We're everywhere. You can't escape us.
Let me jump out. I see Larry Davis has had his hand up for a while, and then we're going to come back into the conversation. Larry, did you have a question you wanted to ask now or later?
Yes. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we hear you.
Great. I have three. As a matter of fact, I kind of posed my questions actually in the chat. Okay. And so I'll just basically ask them from the chat. Basically, the first question, well, I've actually been to Brazil and Portugal, and I'm wondering why does European Portuguese sound like Russian? I was actually in Lisbon, and eu falo português também. Sorry about my American accent, but I speak it, but it was very different when I was in Portugal. Also, too, I'm wondering, and this question, these questions are for anyone. I'm wondering, what are the major historic Afro-Brazilian institutions? And my last question is there an equivalent of the National Smithsonian Museum of African American History and Culture in Brazil, in Brasilia? Those are my questions.
Can Rebecca take that one? I know she does Afro-tourism.
I'm going to start with the question of language, because it's my field.
Go ahead.
Thanks.
Go ahead.
Is there white? No, yeah.
Yes, that's fine. That's fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, because in Portugal you have a very European influence. Yeah, and when you come to Brazil, the Portuguese Brazilian language, you have a huge influence of all these Black people brought from Africa. Yeah,
I see.
And it's so different, even the way we speak, even the way we put the pronouns. Yeah, even the way that our grammar is so different from Portugal. Yeah, although we have a grammar that is like the grammar of a Portuguese language, but the way we speak is very different than the way they speak. Yeah, so the accent, they don't open their mouth they don't say for example, my name is Marcos. It's they don't say, they say like Marcos. Yeah, it's like. It's a very weird. I was in Portugal. Yeah, the first day I was speaking English because I couldn't understand what they say. I have to speak one day, a whole day, trying to put in my ear, getting used to the accent. I couldn't understand a word in Portuguese, and I was like, no, this is wrong, And it was so much easier when I was in Mozambique, because on the first day I could get everything. I was like, that's so crazy, It's just the way they speak. Yeah, it's so right.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks.
The next question,
I think Rebecca can answer the question is about what is it? If there's any historical Black Brazilian institutes?
Right.
Yeah, what are the major, for example, in the United States, for example, you actually have historic Black churches, you have HBCUs, you have historic Black, there are just a ton of, if you will, African American institutions, and I know that the cultural, makeup of America is quite different from Brazil. But I'm wondering, do the Afro-Brazilians have their own historic, institutions which actually kind of shape Brazil?
I think we're starting. Yeah, I think we're starting to get something like this. I think one of the things that I'm trying to do is through communication, through Portuguese, to show the Black Brazilian history and culture and everything. Yeah. Recently here in Rio, they were excavating downtown to put the new system of the how do you call it? VLP? Oh, Jesus Christ. The train, yeah, it's not a train, but urban bus, yeah, electric urban bus, and they found a huge cemetery of Black people, yeah, and they were like, oh, we're not going to excavate here. So a museum was open out of the blue. There was nothing to be done, and suddenly, okay, we cannot excavate here. There's a cemetery here, and I think we're beginning, yeah. And I think I read your question very quickly because Phil was talking, and I think you asked something about if the government is doing, if it's affiliated with the government.
Right. In terms of HBCUs and all of that, I'm wondering, is the Afro-Brazilian community working with the federal government to establish more HBCUs across Brazil? And lastly, I'm wondering too, that in the United States, in all 50 states, there are, if you will, historic Black museums in all 50 states. And in addition, of course, you have the National Smithsonian Museum of African American History and Culture, which is 400,000 square feet, which actually basically tells really the entire history of the African American experience. And so I'm wondering, if I visit Brasilia, the capital, is there an equivalent of a museum like that in Brasilia?
No, it will not have an equivalent like this. I don't know if it's São Paulo, but
there's the Afro-Brazil Museum in Ibirapuera Park. And I think what this gets to, and that's where we talked a little bit at the beginning about racial differences, how people ID here in terms of their race versus America. Brazilian Blacks went through a different journey to get to where they are now than American Blacks. And that journey meant a lot of marginalization up to the very recent, past. So there wasn't, I think, when you're looking at something like historically Black colleges, universities, Black Brazilians economically, socially, just didn't have the means to create these institutions. What we have now, like right. I'm looking here on my screen at the Palmeiras Fundação Cultural. That's a famous, cultural foundation, which it gets to more what Marcos is saying is like, it's starting. But what does it mean by it's starting? There's Black organizations who are preserving the history that wasn't kept, okay? So when we're talking about historically Black institutions, sometimes it means going to a quilombo, or it means going to the Recôncavo, or going to a little neighborhood in Rio de Janeiro, which was founded by Black folks. And you can get the history of the samba there, the history of the samba de roda. I have a friend who's a musician, and she is studying so much the history of samba de roda. So when you're trying to get into understanding the Black history, it's through these means. We're not going to have in Brazil the same way that in the US, this university that was built 100 years ago, this medical institution, the first medical institution set up by a Black person. It's just not, again, due to the financial and social marginalization of Blacks in Brazil, which was 1,000,000 times stronger than in America. And folks get weirded out when foreigners say this, but yes, Brazil is 1,000,000 times more racist than America. I feel this to my bone. Blacks are more marginalized here. They still are. So we don't have those things. What we have is what Marcos is saying. Now, there are Afro-Brazilian museums. There are these urban quilombos, which try to preserve the culture. We have people like Rebecca who are going forward with the history. She's creating those institutions herself. She is an institution, this woman, okay? So that's what's happening, but you can't compare. It's two totally different histories, okay? You'll get the Black history here through the music, through the food, through the stories that you'll hear, through the people. The people are the history.
And I would like to add that our president is Bolsonaro. It's not going to happen.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah,
yeah, Andre, go ahead. I was going to hit you next. Go ahead.
I made a video about this. So I went to, they had kind of like a pseudo carnival last month or a few months ago, and it was a very white event. And I noticed that there is, I was coming in, fresh to Brazil and the culture, not really knowing about the racism here and that sort of thing. And you can definitely see it. It's weird to me because to me, when I look around, it seems so diverse and everybody's like interacting. There's a lot of mixed, I don't want to say mixed race because they're all Brazilian, but different, in the United States, we would say mixed race couples, but here, I don't know if you call them that. But, and so many people I know, and they look white, but their father is Black or their mother is Black. And it's weird to me that there's racism here, but there is, and I noticed it. And the way I get treated when I speak, even with my horrible Portuguese and my bad accent Portuguese, when I go from speaking Portuguese to speaking English, it's like a rainbow appears in the sky and everybody starts smiling and looking, and it's just but if I'm just speaking Portuguese and I'm wearing Havaianas and some shorts and a tank top, some people get afraid of me. So it's a very different experience, being recognized as a gringo versus blending in as a Brazilian.
So your privilege, even as a Black American, carries over into your travels.
Yes, definitely. That's a gringo privilege that happens a lot of places in Latin America.
Yes.
I find, so.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's interesting. It does extend to Black folks. Rebecca, what can you tell us? I mean, I know you do tourism, and can you talk a little bit about what you're doing with women? Because I think it's so similar to what we do here. So, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. First, I would like to say I am a writer for Guia Negro, where Phil was showing about São Paulo. I'm a writer in this blog. We talk about culture, Afro-tourism, and Afro-culture in Brazil. You can find how I write there. And of course, in Bitonga Travel, focusing Black women and support women to travel together or alone or with a family, how they want. And you add from Phil about samba rock, your culture from Brazil, from São Paulo, that is very cultural in São Paulo. Is a nice dance and is very important to know. I love to dance this, and it's very interesting. It's like the different interpretation of the samba and the Black culture also. Other things is about favela. I'm talking about how you told before, only for to add some things. About Grajaú is a favela in São Paulo, is awesome. For me, it was nice to visit there. You can see São Paulo in the boat. You can visit the favela. There they are biggest about art and about the musician from Brazil, from São Paulo. It's very nice to visit. I have a tour. I think if you have never been there, but I would like to show you, introduce Grajaú. And of course, is Cidade Tiradentes, how you say, is the extremely of the favela in São Paulo, but in the east side. I would like to tell for Black travelers woman and how Marcos told about America. That is very important. We understand we are from diaspora, we are from Africa. We have so many similarities, but it's very important to recognize we are Americans. Wherever where you are, we are from America, or we are from Brazil, or we are from Trinidad and Tobago, we are from Haiti, we are American. And what I would like to tell about Black woman, about woman specifically, if you're thinking, let's do this exercise together, and Black woman or Black Brazilian, how many travelers, Black, have you been outside from Brazil traveling? You can count in your hands how many travelers, Brazilian travelers, you have met. It's not so much when you are thinking we are more than 52% of the population. When you take a flight, you can see coming to Brazil or leaving from Brazil, you can see who are close to us are not Black people. That show why it happened. That show we has a racism. This is part of the racism. Yeah, it's very important you recognize it. Why? Why you don't travel so much? Of course, because part of the racism is for us don't move. We don't move and we don't go out and we cannot enjoy your life. This is part of the context. They want us to stay in the peripheral zone and don't move so much. When you are talking about travel, when you live in extremely zone of Brazil or from São Paulo, Rio, whatever, or when you say from Pará, we need to take a boat. After boat, we can take a bus, and the bus should take a flight to arrive and to go around. When we are thinking about Brazilian, hey guys, forget about São Paulo, forget about Rio, forget about Salvador. Can you imagine to meet people from Pará, Afro, Amazon people? We have so many, and it's very hard and difficult for them to move and travel in the country and outside the country. Mm-hmm. We are not talking about like these places, like I'm from São Paulo, you can move for everywhere, easy. If you're from Rio, it's easy, and from Bahia, more or less, but you need to recognize how big is Brazil and how many things we have to say, to see and to enjoy. We need to think about Maranhão, have so many culture, have so many activity focused in Afrotourism. Other experience is Jalapão. For me, is the best place around the world also, because they have quilombola and how they work so hard with the Black culture, and anyone talk about it. When you say Black travelers think in Brazil more than these three states we say often. I would like to get to share tips here, like how can I say, Alagoas, when you have the history about Palmares, yeah, is our history about the Quilombo, from about Zumbi dos Palmares, is a place we don't talk so much, but our history are there also. Okay, why we don't see so many Black women travelers around the world? It's very important you remember we receive less salary. We are mothers. We are part of to contribute with the contribution of our house. We don't pay only our houses. We pay your parents' house, your brother's house, because they don't have job and so many social difficulties, and we are there supporting each others. We spend so much money with therapy, medicines, and flowers to support your family. That is the reason we are not travel outside so much. I'm an expat. Sometimes when I'm traveling, I have been living in 90 countries of Africa, and now I'm going from my 10th country to live there in a few days. And it's very important, we recognize we don't have so many expats, Black people expats from Brazil. Again, when we talk about Brazil. Expats working outside Brazil. Why? Why, if you are more than 52% of the population? Because has racism, and it's very, very difficult we assess this position or this vacancy. And that is the reason I created this organization for Black travelers, not from Brazil, and to looking for South American, Caribbean, how to show we can do it, we can travel, that is for us, that is for our life, and how this is important for we open our minds. Bitonga Travel was created in 2019 when I was back from Tajikistan, Central Asia, where I have been living there for 1 year and a half. And my friends, hey, she's the traveler. And say, hey, I can show I'm not alone. I have so many other travelers together with me. I came from a Black travelers family. I have my grandmother. Yeah, she's my grandmother. She has 97 years old and she travels so much and she speaks German. She so much encouraged me to the importance of to travel and to visit the world. My parents, they met traveling and they all moment to show me the world is ours. But when I look for my friends, some friends close to me, they cannot understand how the world is ours. Woman who has the university, woman who has like a great salary, but they don't recognize the world is there because they have never been opportunity. That's the reason I'm here. We have the group of Black travelers in Brazil, Bitonga Travel, to support women from America, Africa, to recognize the world is ours and they can travel alone or we can travel in group. I do a group travel with them and also to support family to travel because that is very important. Part of the owner agency or who work in tourism agents are Black. And that is very important to recognize and to show these women who are working for the tourism in Brazil. The group also support these women who have been working with tourism and show how this is important for you to do a movement for Black money. After traveling 3 years, everywhere where I go, I write letters for me. That's the reason I publish my book, with the idea for my present, to send letters for my future, and how is the experience to be a Black woman, Brazilian, South American, Latina, how you say, how is to be an African, and seeing everything where I passed. That is the reason this is my first book from 2017, 2020. I talk about the cyclone I have survived in Mozambique when I was living there. And I share with you how was my experience in Central Asia, how was my experience in Africa. That is a little bit of my letter for you guys. It will be a pleasure to tell more about my history and with my contacts. That's all. Thank you so much.
What a great idea. I've done a lot of traveling. I should have thought to do something like that. That's very good. Thank you so much. Before we hop into questions, and I don't know, I'm thinking maybe Andre and Phil might be better able to answer. For people who are in the audience who are thinking of maybe relocating there, what's the average rent? What are you paying? Yeah, not you personally, but what are people paying to live there? Can you live there and not speak Portuguese? And what if you come there? Should you come with a job? I mean, how are foreigners and expats supporting themselves?
I'll start, and then Phil can fill in the holes because he's lived here longer. First of all, Portuguese. You can definitely live here without Portuguese. I think it would be very difficult. I know people who well, I know people who live here who don't speak Portuguese, and they have a Brazilian girlfriend who speaks English, and basically that person does it. But when I used to work with a lot of immigrants in the United States, and when you don't speak the language, you basically cut yourself off from the population. So you can live in Brazil, not speak Portuguese, but then you're just going to kind of live in a very small bubble of bilingual people and English speakers. So I would, as Marco's probably shaking his head, I would recommend not doing that. You want to go ahead, Marco, take this one?
Yeah, I had to get it exactly here. And I will also get from Rebecca that is down here. The same idea, yeah. The idea is connecting. I spoke with Helen. We spoke like 45 minutes, just talking, like good friends. We spoke like 45 minutes talking, and I told her like when I got to university in 2002, only 1% of Black people were at university. 1%. So imagine, yeah, we are more than a half, yeah, as Rebecca told, we are 52% of the population, and 1% was at university, yeah. So can you imagine how to connect with people, especially with Black people, yeah, in Portuguese. You have to do it in Portuguese. It's almost impossible to do it in English, yeah. I'm here speaking English, Phil is here speaking English, Rebecca is here, Reginaldo is here, Andrea, yeah, but the majority, yeah, the mass, they don't speak English at all, yeah. And I'm not saying only about Black people, yeah, I'm saying about Brazilians in general, yeah. But when you go to this universe of Black people, well, it's crazy, yeah. So to really fully live, yeah, Rio, yeah, as a Black person, you have to learn Portuguese, yeah.
I think what helped me when I was there is because I know Spanish, so I could read it. But I think I was sharing with you that I was in Sao Paulo and I was in a restaurant. I don't know why I was by myself, but I was. And I'm thinking I can read the menu, I'll be fine. And also you have that American arrogance that somebody's going to be here who speaks English. So I'm trying to order lunch and I couldn't, I'm looking for like a word that I can reckon. I'm not recognizing on this menu what I'm just like at a loss. And, like in English and Spanish, there's pollo, in Spanish, poultry, and English. So like you can see the similarity. And the waiter, he just kept saying that the meat, it's white. And I'm like, okay, that could be turkey, that could be chicken. Like, what is it? And finally I just said, bring it to me. I didn't know what it was, but it was frango. Am I saying that correctly? Which is chicken, which has nothing. It says nothing like poultry or pollo. So that was a very interesting experience. But otherwise, I think because I don't have an ear for it, but if I'm reading it or reading signs or even what Phil just put on the screen, I can read that because, I can see the Spanish, mixed in there. But in terms of the accent, it's like hard on my ear. I'm like, I have no idea what they're saying. So yeah, but I hear you. It does help if you have the language. Unless you stay in the tourist areas, then you can probably survive. But if you're going to try and live in the
tourist area, you're not connecting to Marcos, to Phil, to Rebecca, to Reginaldo. You're not connecting to us because I don't live in tourist area. Butantan is not a tourist area. Yeah, it's just like if you want to connect to your people, you're not doing in English.
Let me ask you about getting a job in the tourist area like Reginaldo in the hotel industry if you don't speak English. I saw when I was at your hotel, there were a lot of people there who were from Argentina because it was their winter. So they were hanging out in Brazil. It was June. It was, it was winter there too. It was 90 plus degrees every day. And that was their winter. I was happy, happy, happy. But if you don't like it hot, you probably won't like Bahia. But can you get a job in the banking and the hotels? Is it a requirement that you speak English or another language, or is Portuguese enough?
Ooh, I don't know about a gringo getting a job. Usually for me, I usually tell people it's better to have a job when you come over because most expats and most digital nomads, you're used to living a certain kind of lifestyle. So one, you have to adjust to a new sort of lifestyle. You have to kind of change your spending habits and things like that. But most of the people that I know who are other countries living in Brazil or Latin America have jobs online or have like retirement savings or just have money from investments or things like that. Like I know a guy who's living in Colombia and he has a bunch of money because he owns ATMs in the States. And so he has that source of income coming in. So anything you can do where you can just get some passive income or have a job online, that's usually, I think, the best. But Phil, you have a job in Brazil.
Yeah, but I guess my question, I kind of jumped on that one. I'm sorry, because I was wondering too, for Brazilians, is there a requirement that you speak another? No, both to your job, your answer was very helpful as well. But Phil, do you have to have, can you just get a job speaking Portuguese alone? I mean, a prestigious job.
I don't think so, at least not in Sao Paulo. Another, aspect of Sao Paulo, which is important to know, is that it's the financial capital of Brazil. The GDP here in Sao Paulo is bigger than some countries. It's a very rich city. So there's a lot of multinationals here. There's a lot of contact with international folk here. Rio de Janeiro is the #1 tourist city for leisure. Sao Paulo is the #1 tourist city for business. So, it's a business center. And I think that's important to understand before deciding to move to Brazil. I'm going to do a mini plug here, 2 plugs. One is for Marcos and one is for Andre, because I do have a YouTube podcast called Brazil Expat Journal. And Marcos was on there talking about Portuguese, and it was really fun, and I want to have him back on. It's super important to understand the Portuguese when you're down here. But to your, and Andre, we were talking about things like this, cost of living, how much rents cost. I put a link in the chat, guys. Is it okay if I share my screen real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because there's a site here that I think is really interesting, guys, and it's called, wait up, let me just move over here. There you go. It's called Numbeo, okay? And it gives you a pretty accurate cost of living comparison. I put Salvador and Sao Paulo only because Sao Paulo and Rio are very similar as far as prices. And it gives you a rundown of it's pretty accurate. Like thinking about how I live as a single person, how much it costs to live in each city, everything down from milk, transportation, utilities, childcare, and rent. That's about right for Sao Paulo, 2,600 reais. Salvador, I've never lived there, but I imagine it's a pretty accurate site.
That in dollars. What's that in dollars, Phil?
This is in reais. In dollars, I guess, what is it now? It's gone down, right? It's like $4.
Yes,
Andre,
I think it's like 4.5 or something like that. I'm gonna check.
Yeah, something like that. It's getting closer. It's not the 6 that it was like most of last year. So that's what
for us when we're talking about a rent in
4.7.
I'm sorry.
It's 4.7. So I'm just taking this 1-bedroom apartment in city center. It says here that is $562 in Sao Paulo. Apartment, 1-bedroom, city center. Yeah.
Yeah. And outside the city centers, you see it's a little bit cheaper, which is another reason why I prefer to live outside the city center. But yeah, so in Sao Paulo, if you are Brazilian, I taught English for a long time, for business English for a long time. I moved away from that, but English was almost like it wasn't even a requirement anymore. It was expected. Like a requirement would be to know a third language, whether it was German, because you were working with Volkswagen or some other German company. There's a lot of French companies in Brazil. So I had a lot of students that were studying English and French, Spanish to a certain extent, but I think the French and German were very popular. And if you are American moving down here, yes, to get a job, you need to speak Portuguese. I think there's a misconception of like, oh, I'm going to move down here and I'm going to work at a multinational with my English. Not necessarily, unless there's a transfer going on. Even if you just want to work IT or any type of office job in Brazil, you're going to have to speak Portuguese. This is a very American mentality that, oh, everybody speaks English. No, they don't. And this is a country whose main language is Portuguese. So if you want to work and thrive down here, you really need to learn the language. So study up. If tourism is different, you don't need that much, but if you want to live here, you got to learn the language.
All right, love it. Let's see. Okay, so the rents are kind of, we can play with the numbers there, but it looks very much, so like here in the States, the rents are through the roof. Go ahead, Andre.
So I'll give some numbers for what I've seen. So when I was in Colombia, I had a 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom apartment by the river in a calm neighborhood, and I was paying about $450 a month with a door guy on the 12th floor, nice place, no air conditioning, no hot water, but you can buy that. In Brazil, for Airbnbs, I was finding Airbnbs anywhere between $600 to $1,000 a month. So you can come and just do Airbnbs. I'm just saying in Rio, some of the Airbnbs I saw in Rio, maybe, and there's definitely, you can find cheaper, but if you want like a nice Airbnb, $600 to $1,000 a month, all the amenities. For apartments, where I'm staying at right now in Niterói, I have a 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath for about $420 to $500, depending on the conversion rate. But I saw some things. I'm about 5 blocks away. No, I'm 3 blocks away from the beach. I'm right across from a nice park. I've seen some places for about $300 closer to the beach, but just with not like a really good view. So I think the range, you can, depending on gringos, Americans tend to get charged more. As soon as the English comes out of your mouth, the prices go up. But gringo pricing for sure. You could probably get down to like $100, $200, depending on where you want to live. So
interesting. Do we have any questions? I don't see any hands up. If anybody has a question, please jump in. Reginaldo, welcome back. Glad you were able to sign back in with us. So if I wanted to live in, I don't think Ken is on this call, but if I'm not mistaken, he told me that he has an apartment not far from the hotel where I stayed at your place, which was like a spit from the beach. And I forget how many bedrooms, but he said he's paying like 500. So do you know what the rentals are like for people who might want to?
Well, I used to talk with a lot of people that used to work in a hotel here, and I used to share the price that they have. If you come to a hotel here in Barra, to say, for example, in Barra, you're gonna pay something like probably $100 to stay in a good apartment where you can see the sea. And I think that here in Salvador, you have prices for everybody. Start with something like $40 until $1,000. You know, depends on how much you can pay. It's not so expensive. It's not so complicated. So a friend of Andre was talking about Airbnb. Airbnb is so cheaper. It's very cheaper. But besides Airbnb, if you come to, in case of Pelourinho, you can get an excellent, I cannot say apartment, an excellent room, a clear room, a comfortable room, and you pay something like $46 or so. It's not so expensive.
Mhm. Not bad at all. I don't remember what we paid to stay in your hotel, but I do remember that it was affordable. And when I tell you all that we were right at the beach, we opened our window and we saw the beach. He gave us a great room because it was my birthday, I think. He was just great. Time we were there. But we could open our window and look at the beach. The beach was lit, so people were on the beach playing volleyball all night or drinking or partying or whatever. It was just a really nice location. And that was in the Baja.
And as soon as you arrived, I felt familiar, you know? Something familiar, yeah. Remember that?
Yes, of course I did.
I think that I told you, you looks like a Brazilian person.
Yeah, he was good to us the whole time, no question. He gave us a great room. We were just treated like family. He arranged transportation if we needed it. I mean, just whatever. He was there to take care of our every need. He even invited us to go to a candomblé. Is that what it is?
Candomblé.
Oh, help me.
Candomblé.
Yes, but I didn't go. But so it was just so that we could have the whole experience. You know, I had asked, so when I was there, I saw there was a strong African culture with the food, with the dance, with the religion. And is that specific to Bahia? Because I don't remember seeing that, certainly not in Sao Paulo. But
it's here.
In Rio de Janeiro, I think the behavior and the culture is almost the same. In Rio de Janeiro, in Bahia, I think that is almost the same.
Okay.
In terms of behavior, culture, religion.
Yeah.
To say something. Yeah, I'm just agreeing. Yeah. About religion. Yeah. So there is this. I think I'll let Rebecca just appear here in my screen. Rebecca, up to you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm here.
Go ahead for Candomblé. Go ahead.
Yeah. I talk about Brazil. I don't talk about Rio, São Paulo, and Rio.
Yeah, but Candomblé. We're talking about Candomblé.
But tell people what it is.
Candomblé, Umbanda.
It's very important to talk that we have our own religion, our own Black Brazilian religion, and we really do it, yeah.
But is it rooted in Africa or no? Is that not true?
It is. But you can find in all Brazil. How was put before in Porto Alegre is very strong the candomblé also. In Amazonas, the candomblé is very strong. And I was living in Venezuela a few months ago, and I could find the candomblé. They have so many religions so strong. And here in São Paulo, I mean, not São Paulo, but in São Paulo, have also candomblé so strong. Like that's very important. We can find and we can see more in other countries, like in São Paulo, in Porto Alegre, and in Manaus, more people, white people, robe this religion, appropriate about the candomblé religions, and say that is our culture, but more white people being part of candomblé. But in Rio and in Salvador, you can find more Black people being part of the candomblé religions. Very important.
Candomblé, just to say, it's really like. Sorry, go on.
Go ahead, Marcos.
Okay. Just because, as you were asking, yeah, it's a religion. It's brought from Africa. Yeah, the roots are from Africa, but it's Brazilian. That has the roots from Africa. From I don't know. We spoke the word quilombo a lot here. Do you in English? Do you understand the idea of what a quilombo is? You use this word a lot here. Quilombo. Marronagem, Phil.
Go ahead.
The best translation.
No, we don't really have, because it's a very Brazilian thing, but it's basically the area, right, where
Larry say here, maroon.
Maroons, yeah.
Oh, maroons.
Maroons and marronagem, yeah. So when we say quilombo, yeah, we're talking about the maroon, and we have a verb, that's aquilombar. Yeah, is that Black people just going together, yeah, and getting strong. And I think it's the idea of the religion, yeah, the Afro-Brazilian religions, that's candomblé and umbanda, yeah, is the idea of the aquilombamento, aquilombar. The Black people get together to get strong. Yeah, so I believe, and the process of a kind of healing also. Yeah, when we get together to get strong, we're talking about healing. And I think it's very important, if you have the opportunity again, Helen, to go to a candomblé, to a terreiro, just don't miss the opportunity. Really, it's something like, wow.
No, it was no reason. I think it was a matter of time. It was, I don't remember. I think it was like the last night or the night before we were leaving. And yeah, and I did, yeah. No reason though, but yeah, I definitely wanted to check it out, because the thing that I liked about Bahia was the African presence, right? And in the food. And I had asked Phil if he would show us a video of help me. Capoeira. So, and you all can tell me if I have. Can you show the video and I can talk while it's showing, maybe? Because what I was told about it, and tell me if this is true or not. So when we went. We were in Rio help me, Reginaldo, Rio
Vermelho.
There, that's where we were.
Rio Vermelho. Helen, Candace, I can talk with you so much things about candomblé, He is a specialist about this religion. I think that he can explain so much thing about candomblé. Besides, I think as well that he already have a lot of things written in terms of religion. He can explain so much things for you.
Okay. So here is so would you all call this a dance? Would you call it a martial art? How would you describe this?
You gotta listen to it with the music. Can you hear the music?
Oh, we can't hear the music.
No.
So at the top, yeah.
Share the sound. That's
kind of fighting.
This is the capoeira dancing. Can I just say something a little bit about candomblé and umbanda, which I think is very interesting coming from a foreign perspective. And last year, or maybe the year before, I saw a really great movie called Horror Noir. And it talked about all these horrible Black tropes that we have in horror movies. And one of them is the magical Negro, okay? It's the Black person that comes in and just has the magic power and saves the day. And also all the negative representations of voodoo, Santeria, and all these African religions that were brought over. So consciously or not, I had some prejudice against this. I mean, when you're raised with thinking that this stuff is black magic and it's dangerous, it gets in you, whether you want to or not. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I hate these people type of prejudice, but it was still kind of like, yeah, maybe not for me. But I dated somebody who wasn't in Candomblé. Actually, no, he was into Umbanda, and there's slight differences between the two. And he took me to a ceremony, and man, it was the most beautiful thing I have ever experienced. It's full of light.
Don't you feel afraid?
Excuse me?
Don't you feel afraid? Because people, when they don't know this religion, used to be afraid to go.
Of course, but I was. But then I realized I'm being stupid, and then I need to get over this. So I went just open and really trying to explore this. And I explored a lot of different religions, from Spiritism, just to get to know them. I didn't like the Spiritism too much, but Umbanda I really, really loved. And you really get a sense of the Afro roots. They're so strong. And then what's interesting is then when you start to compare what happens in these ceremonies to what happens in the Black church in America, when everybody gets the Holy Spirit and starts and chaka 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 chaka, and the tambourines start, and you realize, oh my God, it's in the US too. It's just that in the US they crushed it a little bit more, and in Brazil Blacks were able to keep it a little bit more, which leads right into capoeira, because one way that they kept it is by hiding it, you know. So if you look here, a lot of the Catholic saints, they're actually not the Catholic saints. They're the African deities who they call São Jorge or whatever, but really it was their way to hide their religion and fake like they had converted to Catholicism, because Brazil is a Catholic country, not a Protestant country, and still maintain their faith. So with that, there's a lot of mixing, okay? And that's from both sides. You know, there's people that follow Candomblé Umbanda who believe, you know, who may follow some things of Catholicism and vice versa. It's such a mix here. It's so wild. And to Rebecca's point, if you get to Sao Paulo, yes, there's been a bit more of stealing, just like with the pagode, of, you know, the white version of these religions. But you can find some terreiros that they say. You can find these areas, the terreiros, like the area where they actually practice and do the ceremonies. You can find real Afro rootsy ones even in Sao Paulo. And so that leads right into the capoeira, because capoeira was also a way for Blacks to protect themselves here when they were slaves. So when you watch the video, you saw that a lot of the dancers were low to the ground, a lot of kicking and stuff like that, because they pretended it was a dance, but in the dance, there would be these very, very vicious kicks and moves and stuff like that. And even the berimbau, which is the instrument that you see them playing, you know, instrument, that's a weapon, okay? It's a spearhead, you know, you can fight with it. So everything about Candomblé it's a dance, quote unquote. Really, it's a fight, okay? And even if you watch UFC and you watch, you know, mixed martial arts, there are fighters who put little bits of Candomblé even in their fighting style. It's not the most popular because, you know, it's turned more into a dance than an actual fight. But some of those kicks, man, they're vicious. They'll knock your head off.
What they told us when we were down in Rio Venezuela, I'm sure I said that wrong, was, and we watched one, was that enslaved people were not allowed to fight one another. So what they did was create a capoeira, I'm messing it up, the dance. And they would get in circles. They would encircle the two people who were at odds with one another, and they made it look like a dance, but it was really, they were fighting something out. But, you know, it was just crazy because, like, just like here with slavery in the United States, you know, I guess the white man could beat you to death, but you can't fight, you know, you were somebody's property, so you can't fight each other. So that was interesting. And I wanted to know if that was true. So what I hear you saying is that, yes, that's true. Yes.
Yeah, it was a way to protect themselves. Yeah. But you can still see it. It's very beautiful to see.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah. If you all go online, if you can drop that link in the chat, people can look at it on their own. But yeah, it was just, and then even the night that we were there, it was a female. So it's not just a guy thing. Even the females do it. So I talk about being in shape, because some of those moves that they're making, you're like, okay. So, yeah. Hey, Jocelyn, I see your hand is up. Did you have a question?
Yes, I did. Good evening to everyone, and thank you so much for this wonderful session. I have two questions. One is, in Brazil, are you dealing with the challenges of global warming, climate change like we are in the US? That's number one. And number two, what is the quality of the medical institutions in Brazil? How's healthcare for Afro-Brazilians? Because a lot of times in the United States, we are not afforded the same healthcare as the white people. You know, a lot of times our institutions are substandard. We don't always get the best healthcare, or especially for women, we might be the last ones to be diagnosed with cancer. It might be stage 4, and for men too, with prostate cancer. So just, I would like to know a little bit about that. What's the experience in Brazil?
And also, that question is good too, Andre, I don't know, or Phil. Well, Andre, I mean, from a foreigner perspective, if you have to have medical treatment there, should you be concerned, or will you get quality care? So anybody can take her questions. Thank you, Jocelyn.
You're welcome.
Well, I'll just pop in. I'll just pop in real quick because I don't know too much about Brazil, but I do know in Colombia, it's actually very good, and they have a lot of good treatment centers. So that's just a little Colombian thing, not related to the subject, but I wanted to say that. But maybe Phil or Marcos knows more.
So Rebecca, you have a no in your box. Does that mean it's not quality care, or what does it mean?
I am a nurse. I have been working for the public health system. That is very important to know here. The public health is free. You can find your free public health. Of course, that's working when you have to go quickly or for some emergency, but we're talking about Black people. We are talking about people in vulnerability. Guys, and remember, you are from America, and when you are talking about Black people, when they are from Africa, when they are from South America, they are not looking for like gringo, they are looking like Black people. And you know how this system is very racist. And you be long time you wait, you be treated from doctors, from nurses, from healthy work, like with racism, with different ways of you treat you. That is very important to know. But today, when I was in a taxi, I was talking with a guy from Haiti, and he was talking, hey, Rebecca, you need to know in the, we say, basic system, like in the hospital, they was looking for someone who could speak French, because people from Haiti is coming so much here, and they don't speak French, and in Brazil you don't speak other languages from Portuguese. It's very difficult when you are in peripheric zone. And he told me, hey, now he has like people who are working there from Haiti, and they can support us to doing the translate in the hospital. That is very important. We has like some I love the accent from Rebecca. I hate it, but that's okay. How that is very important. You think in the vulnerability, and to think in the specifically people who are there, and that is very important. Phil told you we was in 2010. We was fighting about more equality in the public health system in Brazil. And when you talk about public health system, I have been working with nurses in terreiros, in candomblé, religious, because they have so many treatments for population who go there to find like from God or from the Orishas support for to help them themselves. That is the reason we understand, and the public health in the others governments, not now, was looking for to combine religious and the quality of health care for the community. That's for me is very important. When you are talking about religions, we need to understand the race, the religions of the community, the gender, because we know who more die with abortion are women, are Black woman, and that is very hard for us to hear that this, and who has the high number of HIV are Black people. That is very important, how you need to work for to reduce this inequality of the health system.
I agree.
Very.
Yeah, I want to speak a little bit on this with healthcare, because despite the problems that you can have down here, I think most foreigners would say it's better than what happens in the US as far as getting medical care. One, because like Rebecca said, there's the SUS, they call it it's almost like a universal healthcare system, SUS. And it's great for emergencies. I've used SUS a bunch of times, even to get x-rays. If you're just feeling like that stomach cramp from hell, you go to the SUS. And if there's big accidents, I mean, if you broke a leg, broken arm, go to SUS. You can find them all over the city. But I mentioned a little bit earlier, we were talking about doing taxes, and I can't evade them anymore because the last 3 or 4 years I'm working registered here in Brazil. Before I wasn't. So through my company, I do have paid healthcare, private healthcare, and man, it's incredible. Like when the littlest thing they take care of. Like last year, I run a lot. I was running last year and I got something in my eye, like a truck passed, and then 3 seconds later, a little thing went in my eye. I thought it would come out. It didn't. I went to the eye doctor, didn't pay a thing, set up like 10 a.m., was able to go there, have her scrape this out of my eye, which was not fun, but then went to work like, okay, and then last year I had everything. I got pink eye last year. That's what happens when you work with kids. So then I got pink eye later in the year. But again, I went to one of the best eye hospitals in the city. They took care of me, boom, 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 boom. Went home and I didn't pay a dime other than, my monthly copay, whatever they call it, which isn't that expensive. And if you don't work for a company, you can get these private healthcare plans, which a lot of foreigners have, and it's not mega expensive, especially if you're thinking the conversion into dollars. And you can go to some really top-notch hospitals. The people treat you well, but there's also the SUS. So yeah, get yourself some healthcare plan, or see if your American plan is covered down here. But I don't think it will be. But you can definitely get some good plans down here. And now going to Rebecca's point, which I think is important, is, hey, I'm telling you all these wonderful, beautiful stories, but I'm like 20 minutes from downtown Sao Paulo. The further out you get, the less accessibility you have to these things. And that's where Rebecca is 100% correct, with all the issues that Black folks have down here to access to good healthcare, good medical practice, the abortions she was talking about, women who die during abortions. Because when you get out into the periphery, the suburbs, the periferia, then it's another story. That's where I met her. I was in Brasilia fighting to get rights to these people that are outside the main city centers. Now, if you're living in that 10 to 20 kilometer radius, whatever, of the major city center, you should be fine with healthcare. And then we're talking about climate change, and yeah, I mean, the Amazon is being destroyed.
Phil, before you jump into that, let me, Reginaldo has to leave, so I want him to give us his farewell and just give us his thoughts on whether we should visit or try to relocate there. And
Yes.
how have you enjoyed your time with us? Reginaldo, you're muted.
Well, to say the truth, Helen, well, it was a great surprise.
Reginaldo, I'm going to
invite you to make part of this speech, to this conversation. I beg your pardon?
Go ahead. Keep talking. Oh, you're muted. You're muted. You're muted. Unmute yourself.
Me too. You're muted.
Okay, nice. Well, as I told you, it was a great pleasure to make part of this meeting, of this conversation. I'd like that you invite us more time to participate. And next time, I would like to be invited and share some good information about many things. Unfortunately, I could not participate as I would like because the time is over so very, very, very fast. But I'd like to invite all brothers here to visit Salvador. And if I have opportunity to meet all of you here, you're gonna be a great pleasure to help you with something, okay? Andre, I think that you don't know Salvador, you must try, you must visit, okay? And for all of you, when in Salvador, visit Rosario dos Pretos Church, especially you, Rebecca, especially you. In Rosario dos Pretos Church, there is they used to have a pride, to use to pride to God in a different way. And all Tuesday, 6 p.m. on, you have a beautiful mass there, okay? And I would love that you can go there one day to see how much beautiful it is, okay? Was a great pleasure and see you next time.
Thank you so much. And we'll talk soon. Okay.
What is Reginaldo's contact info? What is his contact info?
Reginaldo, did you leave?
Well, sure, just a second. I'm gonna put here my email, my WhatsApp phone number, okay?
Okay.
25th, I will stay in Roma Negra, present my book. I invite you to go there for have some drink with me and we meet each other in Salvador, please.
Thank you so much. If you can send me a message, I've already written my phone number here, okay?
Guys, go.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much, Reginaldo. We'll talk soon. Thank you.
Okay, you talk, Ellen.
Okay. So yeah, Marcos, you've been kind of quiet. What do you want to tell us? Anything good?
I'm just talking to Rebecca, like parallel conversations, parallel chats. No, I'm just saying, learning a lot also. It's just like so good to be here. And I'm just learning a lot.
So would you recommend that people visit or relocate, or what if I were wanting to relocate there, what would you tell me? Anybody can answer this question. What do I need to know? And Andre, since it's so fresh for you, like, what are the things that you wish you knew before you did it? And I always say, leave your American attitude at home. So I think that goes without saying, but what can you talk about somebody who's considering relocating there?
I think the first thing Andre told, is Portuguese. Like, it's almost impossible to live here without Portuguese. Of course you can, but you'll be in a bubble that is not so good. And it's just to come and really enjoy what is like Brazil, the Black culture in Brazil and everything. I think it's the main idea. I'm just going to get back here to Jocelyn, she was talking about climate change.
Yeah, she asked about climate change. Go ahead.
So I'm going to come back to this climate change. But Rebecca wants to say something before. Rebecca, she needs to go also.
Thank you, guys. Sorry. I need to leave because when I just arrived in Rio, I'm trying this meeting and I have here some friends here waiting me. And thank you so much for this opportunity. I would like to have more time with you for share more experience. For me, it's a pleasure talk about Brazil, talk about Afro-tourism, and encourage you to come to visit our country. It's very important, more than usual. I think that nice for
and when
you
the
guys.
book comes out in English, you must let me know, and I will let the people on the call know, and we can start purchasing it. So congratulations on doing that. Great idea.
Oh, thank you, and keep in touching because we have so many things together for two building. Yeah, all the best for you, Ellen. Keep shining. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you so much for giving your time. And I look forward to meeting you in Brazil, hopefully in Bahia, but I'll come to some other part of Brazil too. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you were about to talk about the climate change. Is it that this president is cutting down?
That's it.
Okay.
That's it. Our president is Bolsonaro. That's it. That's nothing else to say. Nothing else. It's Bolsonaro. It's like, you know, they think Trump is terrible. They should meet Bolsonaro. Yeah. It's like how we were talking about this. How can he embarrass ourselves today? And it's the same thing.
That's how we felt with Trump.
Yeah, it's the same. Then how could Bolsonaro embarrass ourselves today? The last of the week, he bought like 35,000 boxes of Viagra for the army. Yeah,
For the military.
For the military.
What?
Why? Because he wanted to. Because he can.
Okay.
Well, because he can't.
Wow.
So that's why he bought Viagra. Yeah. So it's crazy. Yeah. So imagine climate change. He doesn't care about climate change. He's just like, okay, let's burn Amazon and let's find some crazy minerals called niobio. I never heard about it. No, let's just. He really don't. He doesn't care.
Yeah, that's what I remember hearing, that he was cutting down, burning down the Amazon, and of course that's going to affect your climate.
Yeah, we have a big ecosystem called Pantanal here. Yeah, it's a flooded area, big flooded area. And the last year was the biggest fire in that region, like ever. Yeah, so this is how he's talking about it. Yeah, Phil, coming.
I just want to say something because Ermine, I hope I pronounced that correctly. It's like she read my mind because it's very similar to what I told Andre when he interviewed me, which is, guys, if you're going to come to Brazil, this is a difficult year. This is a complicated year, especially if you're trying to come long term. I would just be wary because it's going to be a very complex election. Two very, very controversial figures from both the left and the right. And we don't know what's going to happen. I don't think it's going to be a very peaceful transfer of power. If you thought that what happened with Trump, with the Capitol and all of that was something, Bolsonaro's like, you know, Trump is a saint compared to Bolsonaro. You know, it's just a whole nother level. You know, so I would just say be wary. But also, Andre made the point when I said this to also, life's short. Just do it. And I agree with that, but do it smart, you know, so have an escape plan, have, you know, that $2,000 in the stash that if shit hits the fan, okay, you're on the next flight back over to wherever you're from. But this year in particular, man, you know, Bolsonaro and Lula is going to be, you know, people get heated about these guys. Both of their camps are very passionate about their candidates. Both sides can get very violent about their candidates, and it's going to be a complex election. It's in November. She had asked there, when is the next election? It's now in November, October, November, I guess, right? And it's just something to watch out for. Like, I wouldn't recommend making a long-term decision about Brazil right now. I would wait till the dust settles after this election to do that. But to travel, I mean, okay, you're not going to feel it as much. You know, you can travel here, you can enjoy here, but just be wary of that this year.
Phil, that was going to be my question. I was going to ask you about the impact of the elections, but also the candidates. But what impact on a day-to-day basis does the federal system have? You talked about Luna, and I know one of the things is that because American influence and corporate influence, you've moved from almost sort of a socialist, not quite, but sort of a socialist system to a neoliberal. Like there's a movement towards a neoliberal as a result of US influence as usual. So can you speak to that? You know, because we're talking about some of the challenges that people have day to day, particularly Black people who live in Brazil. So how does that, like the head of the state and the federal system, how does that influence or not people at the other level?
Well, I'll tell you from my experience, you know, I mean, having lived my whole life practically in the US, I mean, the government was there, but it was sort of like, okay, whatever, you know, I didn't feel it as much. And when I came to Brazil, man, I felt the government. It's everywhere. Everything's taxed, the bureaucracy, like that's where you're going to feel it more. Like Bolsonaro, like I'm not thinking about this dude every day, you know, Lula, Dilma, whatever. I'm not thinking about these people every day, but it's the weight of the government. Brazil has a very inflated government, and that's regardless if you're talking left or right. It's just the system here. There's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of bureaucracy. There's a lot of stealing of people's money.
Oh, like
and
here.
So, well, no, trust me. When you come down here, when you visit, you don't feel it. But once you start living here, you're going to feel the weight. At least I feel the weight of the government and everything in the daily goings-ons, mainly due to the bureaucracy. I mean, you just feel the bureaucracy. But of course, you know, whoever the head of state is, I mean, for me, the toughest time that I had here was during the Dilma administration. It was the first time in my life that I had to ask people for money. Like I was that bad financially, like most Brazilians were. Brazil went into a very deep recession, and it was just a rough time for Brazilians in general during her period as president. And so, okay, I felt her, like I wasn't very happy with her, but you realize after that, hey, regardless of who's up there, it's the system that's a problem, and it's very inflated. And it just weighs you down. Like I've never felt government on my back as much as I did here in Brazil. Even something as simple as having to carry an ID card, which I lost. Again, I've lost about 10 ID cards since I've been here, because I'm just not used to having to carry one around to do everything. So I just paid 40 reais. There's that bureaucracy again. And I just read an article about how the public sector is the sector that made the most money. They made over 20 billion reais during the pandemic, during like a very tough economic time. The public sector is not hurting at all. So I just paid 40 reais to get another ID card. This one I'm going to digitize because I always lose these, because in the US, I just never carried ID with me. You're not expected to. So even something as small as that, I got to have an ID card. I got to have a worker's card. I got to have a voter's card. I got to have a SUS card. It's like, wow, you know, and all of this is cash. And it's the part about Brazil that I don't like. And I think most Brazilians don't like.
Yeah. So we're getting kind of long here, so we're just gonna wrap it up. I didn't see any burning questions, so I'm just gonna ask for our three remaining guests just to, you know, give us your parting words. Do you recommend that we visit or relocate, or just what? And Andrea had asked from your American perspective, you know, what do you know now that you wish you had known before you came? So we can start.
So I guess based on my experience in other countries in Latin America, I definitely think Brazil is a place you should visit for the cultural experience. It's definitely, the culture is like real here. As I said, I love music. Now, in terms of like long-term, my parents actually came down here, and they're both in their 70s. So they were down here and they visited me for 2 weeks. And I'm here in Aletheia, which is a really nice neighborhood in Niterói, and they really liked it. And financially, it's going to be easier for you than the United States if you're like a retiree. Not as easy for you as like a country like Colombia or Ecuador would be. And Brazil does have all the craziness that Phil and Marcos and Rebecca talked about. But in terms of things like safety and things of that nature, I'm from Chicago, and I feel like, okay, statistically, Brazil is probably more dangerous than the United States. But if you're from a place like Chicago or Atlanta, or a place that comes from a lot of gun violence, you'll be kind of familiar with the certain things that go down in Brazil. Obviously, every country is different, but I'm not unfamiliar with the things that happen here. So I think it's for a Black American, it's a great place to visit. And I think it's difficult for a lot of Black Americans because it is a little bit further than a place like Colombia or Puerto Rico or Panama. But I think it's a good place to visit. You can't, I know everybody's gonna say no, you can live here without learning the language. You can live in any country without learning the language, but you're not really a part of that country. You're very separate. You're gonna be separate anyway because you won't have a mastery of the language. I can speak Portuguese, but my Portuguese is not good enough where I feel like super tight with everybody. But every day it gets better. The more people I meet, it gets better. So I highly suggest visiting. Keep in mind what Phil said. Have your escape plan, but escape plan for most people will just be your return ticket. So come down here. I suggest coming down for a week or 2 weeks. If you're an experienced travel, come down for 3 months. But I love Brazil. I love the people. I love the culture, the food, everything. It's really nice. The political system is crazy. That's Latin America for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's funny because another person who I had hoped to get on this program with us today, and he's Black American, he's been going to Brazil for 40 years and he doesn't speak Portuguese. And his answer was, you don't have to. So I guess it depends upon what you're doing or how long you're there. I don't know. So yeah, but and he feels very enmeshed in the society. So you would recommend that people come and visit. So thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you so much. I just met you all and you all were just so wonderful to do this. So thank you. And I know you want to get back to the beach. So we're going to wrap this up real fast. Back to the beach. Marcos, talk to me. What are your thoughts on, did you enjoy your time with us today? Did you feel like you learned something new? You certainly, I think, shared a whole lot of information that was very helpful. But what is your recommendation? Should we be trying to visit? Should we be trying to relocate? How do you talk to me? Or just whatever you want to say to us in the end, your parting words.
Yeah, I think definitely Brazil is a place to visit. Yeah, definitely a place to feel like home. Yeah, when we say like not going to Africa to feel like home, but come to Brazil, you can feel like home. I think André can understand this feeling. Yeah, I lived abroad for some time outside Brazil in other countries. I lived in Europe for almost a year. I lived in the Middle East, also in Kuwait for 4 years. And when I came back to Brazil, or when I went to Mozambique, while I was there, it's like feeling home is something very important. Yeah. And I don't know how you guys feel in the US when you see like this majority of white people, but I even have some students of mine. I invited them to this to here, so I saw like 3 or 4 students of mine. Yeah, one of them, I don't know if she's here still, like Christian, and she told me like, it's the first time that I am in a place that are more people like me than, there are more Black people here than white people. Yeah, so like it kind of makes your heart more warm. I think it's
absolutely.
I think this experience that you may not experience in the US, I think it's a good place to have here in Brazil, and to learn more about Brazil. Yeah, about the violence, as André said, about the violence. He's from Chicago. He knows all he's aware and he's used to the violence. And yeah, it's sad that we're actually used to this violence, yeah, especially in the suburbs, yeah, it's sad. But at the same time, as in Chicago, as everywhere, you must know where you're going, with whom you're going, what time are you going, yeah? You should be smart, and you're not going to a place that you don't know by yourself, at 3 a.m., yeah? You need to know with whom you're alone, by yourself. Yeah, you have to go with someone. Okay, I'm doing this. Okay, you want to go to a favela? You can do it, but do it smart. Yeah.
Andre actually did a whole video on that. Andre, while he's talking, can you drop your video in there? It was about dating, but it was interesting advice that you were giving people and what he's saying, like know who you are, let somebody know where you're going. If you don't mind, I'm plugging your podcast.
Yes, I will drop both of those videos into.
Let me ask you, I know we're wrapping up, Marcos, but what we didn't talk about is what is your experience, all of you, if you can speak to your experience of Black foreigners, and I think a lot of people on this call are American, but not everybody. So let's just say Black Americans. Do you, is there a community between Black foreigners and Black Brazilians? Do we migrate towards one another? I was just in Mexico, and anybody I saw Black, I was like, hey, are you Black? It was just great, right? So, but it was different. I don't want to get into Mexico, but yeah, so is there a community? Is there community between Black foreigners and Black Brazilians?
Yes, definitely. There's definitely a strong community. And it's many times because people, a lot of Black Americans come and they want to learn more about the culture. And it's just a unique experience, because a lot of us coming from America, like for me in Chicago, I was in my neighborhood when I was growing up was mixed, like Puerto Rican, Black, but then eventually gentrification happened and it just turned completely white. So I was like used to just being super minority. I was a minority among minorities. And it's nice to get down here. And obviously you want to connect with the people down here. In Rio, I do have some friends like downtown Rio, Niterói, not so much, but I do know Black people here. I don't really seek them out, but it's like when I go to a restaurant, everybody who's working there is Black and I'll just start talking to them. And then we just kind of like, I was like, hey, what's up? What is things like here? And they invite me to some things. So it's here where I'm at. There's not really that tight knit community because there's probably only one or two other like Black Americans in Niterói. In Rio, there's definitely more, but there's not too many of us here. So there's that natural connection. You do want to talk to people.
Where do you live, Andre, in Niterói? Just a quick question.
I'm in Icaraí, so it's like
I know. I lived there for my childhood. Exactly.
I'm not too far from you.
So Marcos, when you see Black foreigners, do they seem hostile or they're welcoming? What's the deal?
That's something very incredible. I think something that I learned actually living outside Brazil. Yeah, when you see a Black person, you just talk to him, just say something. And especially like dreadlocks. When a dread person see another dread person, we talk to each other by looking only. Yeah. My partner, she's always like, why are you talking to everyone? I was like, because he's dreadlocks. I have to talk to him. It's like, it's something. Yeah. And I think they're pretty like people like they were always open, yeah. When you see another one that looks like you, and especially this idea when they see that I speak English, I usually approach, yeah, because it's part of my job also, yeah. Rasta man, just to let me say, yeah. Rasta man, we see another one, I have to talk, yeah.
Yes.
And especially about my job, yeah, because I teach Portuguese. I don't teach for a school. I used to teach for a school, and the payment is just ridiculous, and so I decided to work for myself. And so this is part of my job, to meet people, know people, and teach Portuguese. Yeah.
Yeah.
So until I open the school that I opening now, yeah. So this is what the kind of approach. And yeah, so people are always like open to conversations, to talk. Yeah, I have a lot of people approaching me from Facebook. Phil is always sending me some students. Man, I owe you some beers. Yeah, and that's it. Yeah, I think there's a big community, especially around schools. Yeah, the schools, they're doing like a lot of activities here in Brazil, but all these activities are always like so Zona Sul, if you remember the map, yeah, in the Porsche area, center in the Porsche area, and people, yeah, you can play volleyball at the beach, amazing. Yeah, you do everything.
Late in the night.
Yeah, amazing. But you know, there's a lot of things to be seen here. Yeah, you need to go for Escola de Samba. There's one in Zona Sul. All the other ones are Zona Norte. Yeah, not south, but north. Yeah, if you want to see the museum, it's downtown. The Black Museum. There's a Black Museum also that I told you. Yeah, it's downtown. If you want to go to Madureira, Madureira is a neighborhood. There's a lot of hip hop and everything, rap and this everything. It's not there. It's not in the south. Yeah, you need to go north. You need to go inland. You need to go to the Black communities. Yeah, so I think there's this lack of culture being taught and being passed for Black people. So there's a big community of gringo, as we say here, but they are very like Euro-centered, I would say, like very white-centered. And the idea of the school, thank you for the wishes of success of my school. And it's really taking out the idea of the Rio, this tourist area that is not downtown, but in the south, the posh area, and bring it to the north zone, to the Black zone, because our culture, our tourism, our people, our learning, it should be about Black, yeah, not about white. I think this is the main idea, yeah, and I think this is like my final thoughts and words, yeah, like this healing, yeah.
It's the beginning of an HBCU. That's what it feels like. You know, an HBCU is a historically Black college. So you're doing that Brazilian style. That's what it feels like.
I hope so. And of course, we need a lot of help. Yeah. Like, yeah, I cannot do it.
Well, let us know how we can help you. I don't know. I know I tried to mail somebody books over there and it cost me a mini fortune. It was just 1 or 2 books I sent somebody when I came back. So I don't know. Yeah.
Let's see. Let's talk about everyone. It's invited to, because again, Quilombo. Yeah, Quilombo is like Black people together getting strong. So the institute, my school, it's not my school, it's our school, it's our Quilombo. Yeah, it's ours, not mine. I had just have my name there because someone has to have a name for bureaucracy. And
can you put that word in the chats for us?
Yeah, I will.
And Phil taught me a word, beleza.
That's word always.
I didn't know that word either.
The word is Quilombo.
That's the best word. Somebody asked about holistic. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to open the floor up to you, so go ahead.
All right, guys, first somebody asked what a pasta is. Can you see it? Wait, because I got this background. Let me turn my background off for a second. Because when you come to Brazil, you do need to have one of these. Where's my virtual background? All right, I'm going to turn it off for a second. How do I do it? None. There you go. There's my pasta. Okay, and what is a pasta? It's all the documents of my life, down to my birth certificate up to the present. We're gonna go Star Trek to Doctor Who now. But anyway, so yeah, when you're down here, just speaking about the bureaucracy, to get that little ID, I had to bring a photocopy of my birth certificate and the original, plus, you know, the proof of residence, this, that, and the third, in a drop of blood. Okay, so yeah, the bureaucracy is strong down here. But should people come down? Of course. Oh my God, I have a good friend, Elisa Sanders. She's a jazz singer. She always gives this. She talks about how Brazil is like, it's like the little sibling, you know, that got taken away from mom. You know, like mother's Africa, but the little sibling remembers, you know, how mom cooked. The little sibling remembers how mom dressed. It may not be exactly the same, but it's as close as you get, you know, and then it's got its own flavor. So if you're trying to connect to the Afro roots, Brazil is a beautiful place to do it. It's and it's such a huge country, which we've been saying all night. If anybody wants to come to Sao Paulo, you know, find me on Instagram, either Phil Ray Music or Sao Paulo Tours, because I do some tours down here, and you'll see how Sao Paulo is awesome. And it's a little bit of everything for everybody. That's what's so cool. Because this, again, it's the very American egocentric way of looking at the world, like America is everything. But even in America, California is nothing like New York, which is nothing like Texas, which is nothing like Louisiana. And why would you think Brazil is any different? It's a huge country. So the northern tip of Brazil is nothing like the southern tip, nothing like the middle. Even the city of Sao Paulo, as big as it is, my side of the city, Zona Oeste, is nothing like Zona Norte, is nothing like Zona Leste, you know, the other sides of the city. It's a very diverse city. So you have to come with an open mind, travel to many places. You're going to have many different experiences. Also know that the people here are very friendly. Sometimes I travel alone. I traveled alone last year to a little city called Ilha Comprida, Long Island. And it was the best time of my life. I spent a week and a half there. I made friends with people. They let me borrow their bike for like a week. The week that I was there, I was out till 2, 3 in the morning at karaoke bars, having fun. Just be smart, you know, and realize, yes, it's considered a dangerous country, but only in certain areas, not every area. Sao Paulo especially, you know, the dangerous areas are they're kind of separate from areas that are not as dangerous. You just have to be smart. And then when you go to the interior, it's a lot safer in the interior than it is in the big cities. You know, like at this place, Ilha Comprida, where I was at, I was walking around 2, 3 in the morning, people with their cell phones, like, you know, whatever. It's a pretty safe area. So don't come scared. Please don't come scared. Come with an open mind, but smart, like you would in any city. Like if you're walking around New York, you know, just going from ATM to ATM at 2 o'clock in the morning, what do you think is going to happen? You know, and flashing, oh, I got my 200 out of the ATM. Woo. You know, come on. So you got to be smart. And as Black travelers, you know, I think it's just an opportunity to see a difference. And this is what I've learned since I've been in Brazil, a different lineage, a different Black history than what we have in America. It is different, and it's cool. You know, sometimes you'll meet at a point and you're like, yeah, we have the same experience. And sometimes you'll see, wow, the Brazilian experience is so different. I'll never understand it, but it's cool to learn about it and respect it. So it's part of the extended diaspora family. You know, Brazil is an important country for that, especially in South America. You know, because what was it, Marcos? What, 4 million slaves came here? The most, you know, of any country. It's somewhere in those numbers. So it definitely come. Be smart about it. If you're in Sao Paulo, you can reach out to me, reach out to Marcos in Rio or Andre in Rio. And speaking of connection with Black expats, I run a few expat groups down here. So pretty much anywhere that you go, I think I can connect you with somebody that's living there who can help you out, which is wonderful. And Marcos was talking about the Quilombo. The Black travelers, we are like a Quilombo, and we help each other and we network. There you go, 5 million slaves came to Brazil. And we network and we help each other. So we know people all over. We know the Black expat, the lonely Black expat in Porto Alegre. We know who they are. You know, we connect somehow. So yeah, I'm open to help anybody, and just reach out to me.
Last question. Actually, we didn't talk about dating, because I don't know if people are single and you're not trying to move there, and this is not going to be a dating show, but that's interesting too. Like, you know, what is the dating scene like? I know
you need another hour.
I know. We actually on Thursday, I'm doing a show on Black men and Black women relationships here in the States. So that's a whole other. Let me ask you this. Go
Can I
ahead.
drop
Time.
one?
I can be
drop
until
one?
midnight. Really, I can be here until midnight. I have
But we can't. We gotta go. But I have 5 minutes. And
I have
Andre's
to go, but
like,
I'll say it's good. It's good. It's good. It's different and it's good.
from a male perspective, but there's a lot of women on this call, so I don't know.
Yes, I'm gonna drop two shows we did about dating coming from a more female perspective. So if anybody wants to check that out, one is with Renee Adolfi, who is a tantric specialist down here and a good friend of mine. And the other one is with her again and this other lady, Maya. So you get a little bit of the male and female perspective and the LGBT perspective too. So you get a little bit from
That's a
all
whole other
sides.
thing. Yeah, that we didn't get
That's
into.
a whole other thing.
Yeah, I found, and we're not even gonna get into this whole discussion, but I was very impressed when I was in, I think, Rio. I thought that they were the least homophobic Black people that I had ever been around. And in my non-scholastic sociological perspective, I equated it to the absence of Christianity, that there was a practice of a different religion that hadn't introduced that. But that's a whole nother conversation. And that was
Yes, it is.
I have
remember, Helen, remember, Brazil is also the country that kills the most gays in the world. So it's a dichotomy. It's a bipolarity. You know, it's got the biggest gay parade on planet Earth, but it's also got the biggest March for Christ on planet Earth, which is not to say that all Christians are homophobes, but just so you get an idea that it's a very conservative country and it's a very liberal country at the same time. It's complex.
Yeah. But real quick, what were you going to say, Andre?
Oh, I was just going to say, I got to take off.
Oh, I understand. The beach is calling you.
Okay. So
thank you,
everybody. It was great.
We're about to wrap it up anyway, but thank you so much for coming. And when I do come to Brazil, I will be looking up wherever I land. I'll be looking up the person in that area. But thank you so much, Andre.
Thank you.
We'll talk soon. So, anyway, this has been a really good conversation. Thank you all so much for your time. I hope that people in the audience found it interesting. This will be made into a video. I'll share it with everybody. You all let me know if you're comfortable with me sharing your contact information and emails. Okay, absolutely. And maybe I can even get somebody to drop it in at the end of the video link so that whoever watches the video will be able to get in touch with you. But this has been great. I look forward to meeting you in person. And if anybody just has a burning question before I let them go, speak now.
Hi, this is Ginger. I have a burning question.
Go ahead.
I'm interested in the holistic community and the indigenous herbs that they use.
And Helen, I'd like to piggyback on that. This is Jennifer. Listen, I was wondering if somebody could take a moment and speak about the indigenous people, because I noticed they were 1 and 1.5%. Who are they? Where are they? Why so little a population? And I did want to know about their traditional healing as well.
Oh, this is going to be something. Yeah. Okay, 1.1% is just ridiculous, yeah. But you can imagine, like, when Europeans, when they arrived here, they were the ones owning the land, yeah. And how much we're talking about the genocide, yeah. We're really talking about genocide when we're talking about indigenous people, like, yeah, the indigenous from Brazil. We're talking about the genocide. There were more than 1 million, more than 2 million back in the 16th century, and now they are like 1% of population. So imagine. And a lot of them, as we were brought here from Africa and everything that happened to us in slavery, we're talking about the slavery, a lot of things happened with them also. Yeah, the same things. They were made slaves. Yeah, they weren't enslaved. They had their women raped. They have the kids killed, yeah, as we had, they were separated, everything. And when we talk about Quilombo, again, for the same words, yeah, the Quilombo were not only of Black people, but all these indigenous people from Brazil, they were in the Quilombo also resisting, yeah. I I wrote on the chat, yeah, I'm someone, what is Quilombo? Yeah, the word, and I say it's the black resistance, but no, it's not only black resistance, but we were the majority, yeah. But it's this resistance about the indigenous also. And I must say that I can't talk a lot. It's not my place to talk. Yeah, I'm not indigenous. Yeah. So when I'm talking about the institute, the school that I have a partner there, and he's like indigenous descendant. And there was also this whitewashing. Yeah. And he feels like indigenous, but I wouldn't say that he looks white. He is white. He looks indigenous at the same time. You know, it's so mixed that he's not white, so white to be white, but he's not black also. So he's in this limbo place that what I am, and a lot of people are lost there. And I think that's one thing that I have to say about that. I don't have so much knowledge to talk about it. We know what to learn at school, and it's ridiculous what you learn at school. Of course, I got deep into it. There are a lot of indigenous thinkers and philosophers that we can study, a lot of them. One of them I will write right now here on the chat. His name is Ailton Krenak. So this is his name. I don't know if he's translated to English. He's amazing. And talking about holistic and this everything, I think this was also brought from Africa. And I think this Quilombo, this idea of exchanging experiences and everything, we have a lot of, I would say, like tea and medicines and everything that come from the land. We have this very live here in Brazil, in Rio. Yeah. Sometimes I feel just look at some stomach ache, something to calm my out. Just take this tea, it's amazing. You know, and take the tea. Whoa, I'm curious. It's like, what happened? I didn't know to go to the hospital and everything. You know, so there is this knowledge, very important, that also come from Candomblé, also come from Umbanda, but also from the indigenous being together from all this Quilombo. Yeah, I wish I could say more. I couldn't get your name. I'm so sorry. You have a number in your name. I'm sorry. Who's talking to us? Make the question.
You know, my mother is Brazilian. Obviously, I was born here, and the holistic is very strong. And I remember in the US, everything she had a tea for. I almost never went to the doctor. She had a tea for this, a tea for that, some type of homeopathic medicine for this, that, and the third. And that's something that is so strong here that it's even outside, I think, of Black culture. Even white folks, you see, they just have this very rural, holistic way of looking at life in taking care. Because another big religion that we have down here is Spiritism. That's more European. You know, I wasn't a big fan. I went to one of their ceremonies, but whatever, you know, I respect, they got their thing going. But it deals so much with this idea of the spirit, of healing with the hands, healing. So Brazil is a very esoteric country. It's extremely esoteric, and that goes through all races, not just Black. And so if you're down here, it's a great chance to explore that side, whether it's taking ayahuasca or drinking herbal teas or foods or, you know, things like that. I have a good friend, I just mentioned her, Renee, who does, she's a tantric specialist, and she got into that stuff down here, you know, with healing and energies and stuff like this. So Brazil's a great country to explore that from all different angles, which is kind of what I was doing when I said I went to the Candomblé celebration, because I was exploring everything just to see what it was, not that I was going to join it. So I went to Spiritismo, I went to Candomblé, I went to Umbanda, just to see what it was. And Brazil's very rich for that. So if you come down here, you will not have a hard time finding any of that stuff at all. It's extremely rich.
It's just something I feel that you just said that it's a very esoteric country and at the same time the biggest Catholic country in the world.
Yeah, that's bipolar. I always joke Brazil's
No
bipolar.
Brazil's make no sense. This country is like, it makes no sense. It's amazing, yeah, at the same time. Marijuana is not legal here, but easy to get, like so easy. It's ridiculous that's why it's not legal, but there's a lot here.
Okay. Yeah, because it is here, and yeah.
I'm just reading here, yeah. Next question was, yeah, you made the question. Marijuana is totally illegal here, but everywhere. You find it everywhere.
All right. This has been so, let me take you guys off spotlight. We'll bring everybody in on gallery, and then we will bid each other farewell. This has been so wonderful.
It was.
Yeah, so you must come again. I'm going to put you on our email list. I do a call every week for women. And then every now and then we have, well, once a month we do this call, which is open to men and women. And I'm trying to find where my gallery thing is. So we do that. And then we have, calls every now and then with our brothers on the call, because we need to all be talking to each other. That's how I feel about it anyway.
Yeah.
So I look forward to having you all come back again.
I will.
And, yeah.
I will too. I'm here, guys. I'm just looking for something.
I know Janet has lots of questions. Janet, you can contact me after, we can.
Who is this?
Conversation. Janet.
Morrison?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you left
how are older people treated? Yeah, I love them all. Yeah, I have a 98-year-old auntie. Wow, I love her so much. So I think we treat old people, I believe, pretty well. Yeah, especially among family. Yeah, I think it's very different from, for example, Europe, that they just like put old people in
homes.
In that homes. It's not so common here. People like who live with grandma and grandpa until they die, really. Yeah, like there's no one to take care. No, we go to for a house of the one son, the other son's always, yeah, people taking care of, we take good care of our elders. We don't put them away. They stay home until they're gone. Yeah, I think it's important.
There's this thing called Afrocentrisms, and there were just things that Maya Angelou called them Afrocentrisms. And she said, wherever you find Black people, there are just some things that we're all going to have in common. Yes. And I think that's one of those things. In America, we're getting away from that, and we are putting our, elderly people into homes and such, but previously, no. So I just see it maybe as an Afrocentrism that we don't do that. So, yeah.
Quilombo. Yeah, Helen. Quilombo. It's very important.
All right. This has been great, man. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to stop the recording and we can hang out and just talk for a few more minutes, and then we're going to all go. But I just wanted to end it officially to say this has been really wonderful. Thank you all. For those of you who are noticing my earrings, I bought them in Brazil. So if you like them, this is the kind of, and he's looking here. You see my earring? Who is that? Nice. Hey, Yasin. But hi, Yasin. And I also got a head wrap that goes with this. I'm not good at the wraps, but just that's the kind of stuff you find on the street out there. It's just beautiful, and it's artwork. Yeah. So I'm going to end the recording, and I'm going to thank you all for giving up your time. And just so you all know, you all can. There are plenty of sites on Facebook. I forget how somebody refers me to somebody. That's how this thing goes. It's a family connection, right? And then you talk to Phil, and Phil's like, oh, I got somebody. You talk to Marco. And so that's how it happens. And, and I have to say, too, one thing that we didn't get to talk about while Reginaldo was here when I was in Bahia, I was just loving it. I was in heaven. And I was in heaven, and what I was finding is that I would run into white Americans, and I said, "Oh my God, isn't this great?" And I was, in La La Land, and they were like, "It's okay," they were just not like thrilled about it. And it occurred to me somewhere in my visit, it's because people were indifferent to them there. I think they're so used to traveling. And, you walk in and, they stop waiting on the Black person because a white person walked in. In Bahia, there was just an absolute indifference to the fact that your whiteness didn't get you anything special. You were just there like everybody else. And I think it was hard for them to accept dealing with that. So they were ready to go, where I was like, I can just stay here. This is like great, right? And that was just I was there for maybe 2.5 weeks, and then we did a couple of days down in Rio because the person I was traveling with had never been to Rio. But yes, I don't know, it's a Black thing. It's a Black thing. And the reason I do these calls every month is because I really want all Black people to just come together, right? So it's kind of hard to bring us all together and all the crazy time zones and what have you. But this is one thing that we can do. We can come together once a month and, talk to people who are somewhere else and recognize that, like my Aunt Lillian said, which I say every time we do this, she said, girlfriend, I don't care where you go, you're going to find Black people. And that's why I do these calls, so that we know that we have we can touch that we are wherever we go. And I just can't thank you enough. And on that note, I'm going to stop recording and say good night. And we'll just hang out for a few more minutes. But you guys have been great, absolutely great. So the recording is